across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon and welcome to Drive Time, right here on Talk. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan and I'll be your host for 3 thrilling hours of news, views and topical debate all the way to 7 o'clock. Get on the show, get on the phone and call me on 03444 99 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number, and I promise to play your message out. There is, as usual, one hell of a lot to talk about today. It is Tuesday, June the 23rd. Here's what's coming up. Now, the King is dead. Long live the King of the North. Oh, how quickly the massed ranks of Labour's crawling creeps forgot poor, friendless two-tier Keir and went rushing to their new messiah, desperate to feature in Andy Burnham's sickening selfie. Even dead Chancellor walking Rachel Reeves was there in the Gissa job photo stakes, ditching Starmer like a stone and hoping for her new master's blessing to carry on wrecking the country. No chance, Rach, your history. Forget it, Rach, your career is over, just like the disastrous departing Prime Minister who over-promoted you and wrecked the country in the process. 03444 99 1000. What a tawdry spectacle these craven MPs were, pathetically begging for the approval of the chosen one. But who's going to be lucky? Who's going to stay hired and who's going to get fired as Labour's second coming prepares to plunge Britain into his left-wing paradise, possibly within 3 weeks, with no mandate from the people whatsoever? Isn't that special? 03444 99 1000. He's so used to being the King of the North, he's forgotten all about democracy. He doesn't want to know. He's a monarchist, clearly. Also, on today's action-packed show, happy birthday, Brexit. Well, birthday anyway, happy not so much. Why exactly 10 years after the great British people democratically voted to leave the EU, are we still not doing Brexit properly? Why do the tyrannical political elite continue to defy the will of the people? Why are Labour trying to get us ever closer to Brussels when the nation decided it wanted precisely the opposite? What's going on? 03444 99 1000. In other news, the National Portrait Gallery has at last apparently realised it's not good to tell lies about our greatest war leader, and it has pulled its offensive video falsely claiming that Winston Churchill deliberately starved millions of Indians in the Bengal famine, an historical inaccuracy by a Turner Prize artist that surely a public-funded gallery like the National Portrait Gallery should never have allowed. Why did they allow it? Why have they reluctantly pulled it 2 weeks after the storm began? Why did they let that offensive video telling lies about Winston Churchill go on display in the first place? That's a taxpayer-funded gallery. Your money, my money. What are they doing with it? 03444 99 1000. Plus, Nicola Sturgeon continues her hard-to-believe insistence that she knew nothing, I know nothing, of her former husband's nefarious wealth as he is sentenced after admitting embezzling £400,000 of Scottish National Party funds. The party's ex-chief executive, Peter Murrell, got 5 years and 3 months for a crime that the then party leader and First Minister, Nicola, Queen of Scots, remained blissfully unaware of. That's her story, and she's sticking to it. Do you believe her? 03444 99 1000. And finally, of course, the weather. Searing heat delivering record temperatures across the country. Naturally, the deranged, risk-averse BBC is issuing an orgy of warnings. There's a red alert. That's even worse than an amber alert. Did you know that? There's a red alert. Oh, my God. don't go out, draw the curtains. If you step outside your front door, you will die. OK, sure, we have to be careful in these kinds of conditions. We have to be sensible. I do agree with that, but not that careful. I mean, why the hell, seriously, folks, why the hell today have hundreds of schools closed? Hundreds across the country. Because it's hot. Why on earth are the school gates closed? Because the weather's hot. Seriously, don't we have a generation of kids to educate? Can't keep closing the schools as soon as the sun shines or the snow falls. It's ridiculous. What happened to this country? Why the hell have those schools closed? Is it so the kids can go down the local park? Or if they're lucky and they live by the seaside, to the beach? Because that's what they'll do. Close the schools. Oh, it's too hot. Let the kids go out to play. Ridiculous. 0344 499 1000. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Tuesday afternoon together, and let's go straight over to my first guest. He is Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum, Philip Kisley. Philip, welcome.
Hi, Kev. Great to see you.
Great to see you. Well, Keir Starmer's held his first post-resignation cabinet meeting as Labour MPs consider challenging Burnham for the leadership. Well, actually, they don't. No one's going to challenge him. This guy, as I kept saying brilliantly yesterday, wittily, Downing Street has turned into Coronation Street. This guy, Burnham, is walking straight into number 10. We now know within about 3 weeks. They reckon July the 17th, he'll be behind his desk at number 10. Unchallenged, not voted in by the people. He has no mandate whatsoever from the people, and now not really any mandate from Labour MPs either. He's just walking straight in there. What do you make of that? What do you make? Apparently, Team Burnham are furious with Starmer, because they wanted Starmer to say, yeah, I'll hold the fort until September, while you prepare to take over the reins, take over the helm of the good ship Britain. He wanted until September. Starmer's saying, no, sod it, I'm out of here. I don't blame Starmer. It's one of his better decisions. But why would Burnham need until September to actually take over the job we all know he's going to take over, Prime Minister? Is this to get his plans together? I say that a proper politician, a serious politician, who is about to become Prime Minister, could sit down with his inner circle of acolytes and advisors and in one hard day's work flat could lay out a cogent plan for the nation. He wants until September. Not a good sign, not a good start, Andy.
No, I don't think it's a good sign at all. I think, Kev, he could have till the end of time and he wouldn't be prepared to be Prime Minister of this country because he has no talent, there's no detail, he isn't on top of policy, he really doesn't know what he's doing. It's just sound bites and media. And I think if you actually examine what he says, it's just general kind of platitudes to make people feel better with no detail whatsoever. Yeah, I don't blame Starmer for being difficult and sticking his heels in and doing all of that kind of stuff. But the fact that Burnham is literally just going to walk in there with no competition, he's not even going to have to present any kind of policy ideas. He's not going to have to present a strategy, a view of the future, what Britain might look like under Prime Minister Andy. None of that. OK, so that tells me, one, that there is no talent there. There's nobody with any kind of gumption to stand up and say, well, actually, I do have a vision. I do know what this will look like, and this is what I'm going to do. Maybe Al can't, I don't know. But, he's the only one. There's nothing there. OK, so that really, really worries me. But the other thing, of course, is this is all about damage limitation, isn't it? And Burnham really is the only Labour MP who people cannot, you know, who now everybody else, they cannot stand. At least he's got some kind of currency somewhere among some Labour voters. And that's what they're clinging to. It isn't about Britain. It isn't about doing the right thing. It isn't about having a coherent strategy. It's about damage limitation. And that's the back foot to be starting on. It couldn't be worse. It's just going to be awful. And if you were thinking about detail, this is what's going to happen, Kev, okay? It's going to be, he's going to try and push us back into Europe, okay? It's going to be tax and spend, and that will make 2008...
Tax rises 100%.
Tax and spend, but it's also going to be open borders, Kev. So all of the things that we know as journalists and pundits, but also the British people know, are catastrophic for this country. That is going to continue. I give him about 9 months to a year.
Yeah. Now, I want to get you... There were two excruciating moments yesterday in that day of drama. The first one was Starmer's just embarrassing resignation speech, which was a farrago of lies and empty boasts. That man achieved nothing. The only thing he achieved in 2 disastrous years, 2-year Keir, made this country one hell of a lot worse. He made it one hell of a lot less safe, far more dangerous, far more open-bordered, far closer to Europe when we don't want to be, and he was a disaster. And he stood there listing his achievements. It was, frankly, as I say, it was a humiliation. He was humiliating himself. He didn't even realise. And the other, probably more important incident that I think we have to think about, because Starmer doesn't matter anymore. He's yesterday's man, thank God. But it was that photo, that selfie of Burnham and all those Labour MPs, hundreds of them behind him. And I thought, what a tawdry spectacle of a bunch of, you know, crawl-ass Labour MPs basically going, "Get a job." And in that crowd is the woman who didn't turn up in Downing Street for her boss's farewell speech, Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor of the Exchequer. She, meanwhile, was jostling for position behind Andy, deluding herself that somehow or other he's going to keep her as the second Lord of the Treasury. He is not. She's getting fired. But we have a right to think about the quality of the people we elect to Parliament. And I'm looking at this shower and I'm thinking that I've rarely seen anything quite so pathetic. This was just after the swearing in of a backbench MP from Northern England. Look at this. It's embarrassing. Embarrassing. What a shower. What a shambolic shower they are.
Well, it really sums up. I mean, 2 words spring to mind while I'm looking at that. One is vacuous and the other one is shallow. That is what we are looking at. We're looking at vacuous, shallow people who are careerists, who are out for themselves, who do not give a toss about anybody else. They certainly don't give a toss about their constituents, and they don't care about the country. This is, again, this is all about media. This is all about the optics. But if they think that this is good optics, then they are clearly barking, okay?
Do you know what they think? Sorry to interrupt, Philip. This is what I think this lot think. This is what Burnham thinks. This is what Labour politicians think, these dyed-in-the-wool socialists. They think if we could just get a Prime Minister who would open the floodgates of pure socialism, bring about our Marxist paradise, unhindered by the shackles of the right that have ruined our project for more than a century, then paradise will be ours.
Yeah,
the country will be... Well, that's what they're thinking. Those poor, deluded, crawl-ass half-wits. That's what they are.
That's what they always think, isn't it? It's the utopian hell dream that we all have to endure, that always ends in tears and blood, actually, and that might well happen yet. I hope it doesn't, but it does. But what we have, I look at that And these are supposed to be post-colonialists and feminists and all of that kind of thing. And this is just post-war paternalistic socialism with the father figure at the helm there. Nothing changes with these people.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's just quickly, if we can, Kevin.
They always need an icon, don't they? They always need a poster boy.
They need an icon, and
he's their Lenin.
Well, he's their, but he's a bloke in a t-shirt who thinks he's cool, you know, and it's cringe. It's absolutely cringeworthy. But let's just go back very quickly to that speech, because it is important. It was Starmer's last stab at maintaining the fantasy, wasn't it? And it was one-sided lies from start to finish. And when he started blubbing, I actually really, really got angry, because I was thinking about two people. I was thinking about more. I don't know the names of them, but I was thinking about Lucy Connolly and that poor man Peter Lynch, who we've talked about before,
who killed himself,
in custody. Who died in custody. I was thinking about
jailed for holding up a poster during the Southport riots.
That's right, and he died in custody. So I was thinking about all of this heavy-handed authoritarian censorship from the most illiberal premiership I've known in my lifetime, and I'm nearly 55. I had no time for that. And then you go to the flip side of the coin, which is the moron Burnham, you know, the vacuous, shallow idiot I've just described, and all of those people behind him sucking up to him because they want a job with him.
Yeah, they want a job.
It's really sickening.
It really is. Philip, listen, I've got to move on. Got a really busy show today, but let's get you on tomorrow. Let's talk about Brexit. I want to get your view. Always good to have you on the show. Thank you very much. Philip Kisley, the Senior Fellow of the New Culture Forum. We're going to go to break now. When we come back, we're going to talk to Harry Cole, the Sun's brilliant roving editor at large. He's at the ARC conference of right-wing people at Olympia right now in London. We'll talk to Harry in just a moment. Stay where you are.
What they're ashamed of is the English flag. Scottish flag, fine. Welsh flag, fine. Irish, everything like that's marvellous. But no. We can't be English. And this has been going on for a long, long time.
He would be Prime Minister of the most toxic political brand in the country at the moment, which is Labour. And that is what we will be battling against.
Our Prime Minister is allegedly attacked by another nation and nothing is said.
This is a reminder that Russia regards the United Kingdom as a hostile power.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
So over at Olympia, the big auditorium in West London, they are currently staging the ARC conference. That's ARC. It stands for the Alliance for Responsible Citizenship. It's an annual global gathering that unites conservative voices from the right and also business figures from around the world. So, yeah, Alliance for Responsible Citizenship. So we're going to go over now to the most responsible citizen I know. He is the editor-at-large of the Sun newspaper, Harry Cole. How you doing, Harry?
God. Kev, I can feel you cranking that one up, teeing that one up. Yeah, I'm all right. It's very warm here, but it's a lively old gathering, it has to be said.
Now, what's the mood there? Now, this is obviously a right-leaning gathering. What's the mood there about our incoming gathering left-wing storm, I would suggest, Andy Burnham? He's going to turn this country leftwards in a serious fashion. What's the mood there about the prospects?
So what I would say is this is a sort of a conference above party political level. It's more chin-strokey, I'd say, but a little bit more intellectual. It's got a lot of foreign, a lot of Eastern European conservatives are here, lots of American conservatives here. There's a big delegation actually over from the Trump administration, and so actually it's actually quite an international crowd. And I think the biggest word they say when people talk about Andy Burnham is they say the word "who." Who are you? I never heard of this guy. It's just a little bit like Keir Starmer. You know, we talked about this the other day, didn't we? Like, whatever they say about Keir Starmer, some people are going to say he had a pretty good run on the world stage until he fell out with Donald Trump. I mean, he ran away from all his domestic woes by trying to play the world's global statesman. So people are kind of aware who Keir Starmer is. But Andy Burnham, in any of the jobs he's ever done, Mayor of Manchester, Health Secretary, Culture Secretary, he's never shown even a vaguest sniff of an interest in foreign affairs. So actually what's really interesting, I think, is when he becomes the Prime Minister, as it appears he's going to do in a matter of weeks and days, he's got to, frankly, introduce himself to the world, because just as we don't know anything really about what Andy Burnham actually believes on any of the great issues of our time, from migration to Brexit to spending to tax, he flip-flops all over the place. We don't know what this guy stands for on the foreign stage, and I think that is what you pick up here.
Yeah. Now, in terms of his administration, which people think may well begin on July the 17th, as I keep saying, Downing Street has turned into Coronation Street. I don't think there'll be a leadership election or a leadership battle. But what would be your tips for, you know, who gets fired, who stays hired? I would suggest, despite her jockeying for position in Andy's selfie yesterday, Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, is probably on borrowed time. I would suggest Starmer, or rather Lammy's going to have to go. He's too synonymous with Starmer. Who else do you think may go? Who do you think may come in?
I mean, John Healey's might always be my dark horse of one to watch. If a bit of a row going on about the defence spending stuff that's still, you know, that blew up last week, that saw John Healey resign as Defence Secretary in protest at Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves. I wonder whether a signal could be sent, a signal of intent could be sent by bringing him back, perhaps not into the defence job, but perhaps Foreign Secretary. At least he is someone people have heard of, you know, at NATO and the like. People know him around the world. Look, the battle is really on, though, for number 11. Who's going to be the Chancellor? Ed Miliband, don't forget, has played an integral key role in this coup, and it is a coup because no one apart from 25,000 good people of Makerfield have voted for this guy. Yeah. So he's played a pretty integral role in undermining Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer and Ed Miliband aren't really speaking. He's going to want a big reward. But, you know, he is, you know, probably the most left-wing person in the government, and he will spook the markets. He's a big spender. He's very anti-business. His net zero plans have led Britain, you know, into a seriously, you know, tricky waters. There's rumours that, you know, that there could be some movement on net zero from Andy Burnham. So putting Ed Miliband in the Chancellor job makes that very, very hard. So Wes Streeting obviously gave a big old speech about the economy last week, clearly auditioned for that. He dropped out very quickly, so to say he's backing Andy Burnham. He'll want a big prize for not forcing a contest, if indeed he could have forced the contest, if he actually had the numbers. So my money says it's between, I fear it's going to be, I fear it's going to be Ed Miliband, but don't do it, Andy. I know you're a regular talk listener, so he'll be listening right now. Don't do it. Don't do it to us.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Andy. And buy yourself a new black T-shirt. That old one that you wear all the time is getting a bit frayed around the edges. No, seriously.
Except he didn't wear it as soon as he didn't wear it when he got to London, though.
No, he changed it. He changed in the bog on the train, apparently. Yeah. Put a nice suit on. He looked very, very swish, I thought, when he arrived. At least we got a good-looking Prime Minister coming in, anyway.
Turns out he can do.
That'll make a change.
Lovely eyelashes.
Yeah, exactly right. Also, I don't know if there's much talk about the 10th anniversary of Brexit. You know, happy birthday Brexit, except for the fact it's not very happy. I guess the question I want to ask you as a seasoned political observer is, why is it? I mean, there's two things about Brexit. 10 years after the vote, the people voting to leave seem to put this country into a tailspin, with our political elite determined to do everything they could to defy the will of the people and somehow keep us at least tied hamstring-wise to Brussels. That has resulted in 7 prime ministers in 10 years. That's a joke. So I guess the question is why have we still not delivered Brexit properly after 10 years? And why do we now have an administration that's, rather than actually going back to what the people decided, is going to go absolutely against them and get us closer and closer to Brussels? Andy Burnham might even rejoin. He said that. Your thoughts, Harry?
Well, I think he was thinking that until he met the people of Makerfield, and then suddenly discovered actually that would be a terrible idea if he ever wanted to get elected. And so that's gone into skip fire of Andy Burnham's dreams that he's willing to throw out the window for a sniff of power. Expect there'll be a few more of those along the way to Downing Street in the coming days and weeks. Look, Brexit isn't. People talk about Brexit like it's a destination. It's not, it's a process, and frankly, I'm afraid that process is going to go on and on. People like Keir Starmer, people like the people the Remainers, they never stopped campaigning. The thing about Brexiteers is they basically say, aha, we've won. And you can see shades of this in Keir Starmer in a weird way, when, he thought the biggest thing was winning the election in 2024. Actually, no, the hardest thing is governing. And so I think this, with the Brexiteers, they did that as well, is that they won that great result, and then they ended up just tearing 7 shades of you-know-what out of each other. Knifing Boris Johnson, electing Theresa May in, wasting 3 years. And all the while, the Rejoiners and the Remainers and the second referendum gang, they just chipped away and chipped away and chipped away, even though all of their statistics and all of their, basically propaganda that they continue to pop out, that somehow if we left the EU, we'd have 4% lower GDP, all load of nonsense. Look at our economy compared to France. Look at our economy compared to Germany. We're outpacing them. You can't compare us to the American economy, because the American economy is just so much bigger and larger and is going gangbusters still, despite all the turmoil in the world. So they just kept on sort of almost rerunning the referendum for the last 10 years. And so, of course, the opinion polls are a little bit up and down. But, it was frustrated at every turn. It hasn't been delivered yet. But the idea that one day Brexit is going to be settled and everyone will just agree and that's that, it's over, is for the birds, I'm afraid, Kev. We're going to be arguing about this one for another 20 years.
You will be. I'll be gone by the end of 20 years. But great to talk to you, Harry. Come on again very soon. The brilliant Harry Cole, editor-at-large at The Sun newspaper, there with his thoughts. What do you think about Brexit? I mean, he's right, isn't he? We voted to leave the Brussels Club, to leave the EU in 2016, June the 23rd, 2016. Remember that vote? You remember it? 5 in the morning, David Dimbleby, the shock written across his face. I'm afraid we voted to leave. We're going to leave the EU. And that precipitated the resignation of that arch Remainer, David Cameron. What on earth were Tories ever doing wanting to remain in the EU anyway? That's why nobody votes for them anymore, because they're full of Remainers. Well, he had to resign because he was an arch Remainer, and he said, I can't be in charge of a government that's going to go against my principles. So he left. Ever since then, they've been leaving and coming in hot succession. But why, 10 years on, have we still not properly brought about Brexit? In fact, we have a government now, the Brexit reset, trying to get us closer and closer to Europe. By the way, apropos of nothing, for the first time yesterday, I don't know if you saw it, but you know that bloke, Richard Hermer, old Keir Starmer's human rights lawyer mate, who he ennobled, turned him into Lord Homer so he could turn him into our atrocious Attorney General. He should get the high jump as well. Anyway, he spoke yesterday. He was on TV. He speaks like this. He speaks exactly like Keir Starmer. So what I'm saying is, don't ever go to a dinner party with all of these North London human rights lawyers. They're not speaking like this. No, choke our silence, give them away. Borders, we don't want them. Let everybody in. Human rights, Britain's horrible. Boo, down with us. They're all the bloody same, aren't they? Right, let's go to break. When we come back, let's talk about that. Let's talk about Brexit, the failure to deliver, with our excellent international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. And I've got a question to ask her. We're both old newspaper people. I've got a question to ask her about the press, which is very worrying. That next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's read a couple of messages. Just trying to get contact with Isabel Oakeshott, our international editor. This is from Talk. It says, what does Starmer not understand? Over 17 million in a referendum to leave the EU. And Starmer is useless and hates this country. Obvious from day one. Well rehearsed, I think. Also, here's Mike in Wiltshire. Just a reminder, Kev, that it is the UK Met Office who issue weather warnings, including current ones for extreme heat. The BBC is contracted and obligated to communicate all public weather warnings. Is it? Is it? I don't think you'll find it is. It's a free broadcaster. It doesn't take orders like that, and has been for many years. Well, I don't think it is not legally obliged to give us weather warnings. It just chooses to do because it's risk-averse and nanny statist. Now, let's talk to Herbie in Harrow, shall we? Hi, Herbie.
Good afternoon, Kevin. You're having a field day, aren't you, this couple of days?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know what to make of it, Herbie, because, you know, excuse me, I didn't quite get the memo that we're all supposed to be in a mood of national celebration. I mean, this guy comes down from Manchester. I mean, who is he? Yeah. What's he ever done?
Well, Kevin, you know the saying, don't you? The blind leading the blind.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean,
the blind leader. Welcome to the Mad Hatter's Tea Party. Simple as that.
Yeah, this guy's going to. This guy. There's. I think what I'm talking to friends of his, people who know him well. I mean, he's a human being. There's no doubt about that. He's got bandwidth as a human being, far more than Starmer ever did. That automaton little robot. But I've talked to friends of his, and he's also a pragmatist. That's what we've got to pin our hopes on, Herbie, that he's pragmatic enough not to take us in the sharp left-wing direction that his political instincts would dictate. If he had his way, we would rejoin the EU, and we would go so far leftwards, communist Russia wouldn't even know about it. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, don't pin your hopes on anything like that, Kevin. For Christ's sake, don't wish us that sort of just outlook, for God's sake. Yeah. You know,
I'm not pinning my hopes on anything. I mean, I wish all the best for Andy Burnham. He's going to be our Prime Minister. I don't want a Prime Minister to fail, because when Prime Ministers fail, the country goes to hell in a handcart. We found that out with that walking disaster, Keir Starmer. So I don't want Burnham to fail. I think he's a man of greater talent than Starmer. He's more human than Starmer. But I'll tell you what, Herbie, I don't want to be too pessimistic, but I fear the worst, and I'm usually right about this. Herbie, I've got to move on, but good call, good to talk to you as always. Herbie from Harrow there, one of our favourite callers at the start. Isabel's ready now, though, so let's go over to our international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Hi, Isabel.
Hello there. Sorry, I was so absorbed in the endless political drama that for a brief minute I was distracted and not on time. So sorry about that.
I was doing my Richard Hermer impression. I heard him speak on telly for the first time yesterday, and to my horror, or to my amusement, I guess, he speaks exactly like Keir Starmer. So it's like, Lord Hermer, what do you think about the departure of Keir Starmer? Well, it's what the party wants, so therefore.
Yeah, we're not going to be shedding too many tears for him, are we?
Yeah, he's going to go. Everybody hates Harmer, especially all the politicians in Westminster, because he stops everything happening due to reasons of international law. So he's gone. Lammy, I think, will go. Rachel Reeves will go. But what I wanted to ask you about, because we've just been sort of talking about that with Harry Cole and Philip Kisley, but I want to just ask you a direct question. After 10 years, it is the unhappy 10th birthday of Brexit, the day, June the 23rd, 2016, that the people of Britain democratically voted to leave the Brussels Club, to quit the EU. Why haven't we done that properly after 10 years? We still haven't done it. Now, of course, we can talk about the prevarication of Theresa May, all those Tories who pretended they wanted to honour the vote but actually wanted to thwart it. But after Boris Johnson got us out pretty much for good in 2020, why are we still stalling? Why? Why won't these politicians instigate the will of the people?
Well, there's a long and a short answer to that. And the short answer is that the people that run the country have never really wanted to make the best of Brexit. I mean, I'm not even convinced, far from it actually, that Boris Johnson wanted to do that. We all know where his politics were on this. You know, he famously wrote
two letters, yeah,
and one against. Now, it was politically expedient for him to, as he put it, get Brexit done. That's what helped him become Prime Minister. And then, of course, COVID hit, and that became an excuse for doing nothing about anything other than COVID. And the Prime Ministers that followed were so busy either clearing up the mess that they created over their response to COVID, or not actually being Brexit believers, that we've just never got anywhere with it. And frankly, Keir Starmer set out to sabotage it, didn't he? You know, it took so many years just to technically leave. And then what's followed is a bunch of people who have actually wanted to sabotage it. And some have been more subtle about it than others. I mean, in recent months, Keir Starmer has basically put his cards on the table, hasn't he? And sort of said, I want us to effectively go back into the EU, even if we're not sort of technically in effect, we will be. And Andy Burnham has said much similar. I mean, he was careful.
He actually said he's desperate to leave, or so rather to get back into the EU. He said that. He's on record. Only a couple of months ago, he said, I'm going to put my cards on the table. I want to rejoin the EU. However, as Harry Cole was just saying, he went to Makerfield, and the good people of Makerfield put him straight on that. He does at least realise, I think, that the people of this country do not want to rejoin. So the Makerfield experience might have been useful for those of us who want to remain out of the EU in terms of persuading Burnham that that isn't what the people want.
Well, perhaps so. I mean, Andy Burnham, if he, as we all expect, becomes Prime Minister, is going to have so many monumental problems to deal with. You would like to think that he doesn't want to take this on as well. And then, in that case, the best that we Brexiteers can hope for, and I say we because I was very, outspokenly in support of it, the best we can hope for is the kind of status quo rather than the Labour government continuing to undermine and backpedal on Brexit, and then perhaps a future government that actually makes the most of the abilities that we now have to diverge from Brussels, not to continue being shackled to its awful ways and means and regulations and charges and fine, all the money that we have to pay to do things we don't want to do.
Exactly right. I mean, I think that the trouble with the Labour Party is it's just full of these hundreds of ideologues who just see things in terms of some kind of socialist, united colours of Benetton paradise, and they just think, oh, if we're with our brother and sister nations of Europe, everything will be wonderful. They don't look at the detail that what they want to do is to rejoin a sclerotic organisation that is hurtling downhill economically, and it would do us no good at all to re-hitch our wagon to that lot, to the Brussels gang.
None at all. But equally, I understand why a lot of people at the moment can't see the benefits that have come from Brexit, because there haven't been nearly enough of them for all the reasons that we've just described. We have the potential, now we're out of the EU, to forge an entirely different path, not just to be some kind of half-baked, half-in, half-out associate member of the EU, which is how it feels at the moment, with a bunch of disadvantages and no obvious reward. And I think that's how a lot of people feel. They still very much believe in the principle of it, but they are massively frustrated that we don't seem to have actually got much of a dividend from it.
Yeah, I mean,
the principle.
Yeah,
the dividend is the principle.
Yeah, A, it hasn't been a disaster, but B, it could be a lot better if we were allowed to actually Brexit. Let us do it. Let's see what happens, because, the freedom of the world awaits. Ridiculous. Now, this is a really important story that I wanted to talk to you about, because we're both newspaper people. And we're about to get, basically, a serious socialist government. It's going to be more left-wing than Starmer ever was. This will be socialism that we're going to have imposed upon us by left-wing Andy Burnham. Now, in the manner of socialists, one thing socialists don't like is freedom of speech. They hate a free press. You look at all the socialist countries around the world, they don't have a free press. They have one shackled government outlet paper that spews out whatever the leader of the country wants, and that's what the people have to put up with. That's what socialists like. They like controlled, regulated news that they are in charge of. Now, with a view to that, Lisa Nandy, the Culture Secretary, who will survive because she's artfully maintained a friendship with Andy Burnham, she is now making noises that she's proposing that she will force newspapers to join the state regulator, that's Ipsos, that the papers for now a pretty long time have refused to join because they say it is none of the state's business what they publish, and I could not agree with them more. Lisa Nandy, in that repressive assault on freedom that socialists seem to enjoy, is planning to force newspapers to join the state regulator Ipsos that they don't want to join. That is an absolute outrage and something we should be extremely concerned about.
This is incredibly sinister stuff. You know, newspapers face a huge battle to continue to survive in a very, very new and rapidly evolving media landscape. It is really, really tough at the newspaper coalface, and yet it is newspapers that break these big stories that set the political agenda. It is newspapers allied with broadcast arms like ourselves that actually hold our politicians to account. Without newspapers, we'd never know so many of the scandalous things that likes of Peter Murrell, the SNP new prisoner, is accused of and charged with and guilty of. We'd never know, for example, about the expenses scandal. We'd never know about the lockdown files. And I could name so many other amazing exposés that newspaper investigation team have brought. They're so much better at it than, for example, the BBC. And yet newspapers just are endlessly constricted. And as month goes by, they become more and more constricted and restricted by the law. And these are laws imposed from on high that make it ever more difficult to publish things that are uncomfortable for our leaders. And you can only imagine if newspaper bosses are forced to sign up to this horrible sounding state regulator, how much more difficult it'll be to publish stories which make difficult reading for the powers that be. You know, they're already trying to silence ordinary people from saying not very influential things. They're already sending little people, as it were, people with no power, to prison for saying things that hardly anybody reads. So you can only imagine the threats to editors and journalists of publishing things that would go to mass audiences if they are things that the state dislikes.
Yeah, and don't forget that the Ipsos has been around now for about a decade, maybe longer, and the newspapers have always said, no, we are not joining this regulatory system. It's not that they don't mind regulatory boards checking on whether or not, you know, they're behaving ethically and whether or not they're breaking the law. They don't mind that principle, but what they're saying is not if it is a state regulator. The newspapers refuse to be regulated by the government. It's as simple as that, and Lisa Nandy is proposing that newspapers are forced by law to join the state regulator. That is a disgraceful, disgusting assault on the free press, and the newspapers must fight this tooth and nail. And I know you and me will be supporting them all the way.
Absolutely.
Isabel, fantastic to talk to you. Thank you very much. That's Isabel Oakeshott, Talk's international editor. Very important that about the papers. I know, you know, we're old newspaper people and who cares, but it's important. We need a free press, not a press that is regulated by the government. The government deciding effectively what they're allowed to print. No, thank you very much. That's communist. That's dictator stuff. That's tyranny. You know, we're a democracy. We must have a free press, and we mustn't have a government forcing newspapers to join regulatory boards. No, thank you very much. End of story. 0344 499 1000. Next up, we're going to talk to Rear Admiral Chris Parry, ex-NATO and Royal Navy commander, about Keir Starmer's swan song. It's a NATO summit. It'll be his final one. He'll miss that. He loves travelling around on aeroplanes, doesn't he? In Turkey. Embarrassingly humiliating for our Prime Minister. The NATO officials, the chiefs there, have said, well, could you bring along, please, a representative of Andy Burnham? Because we're not really very interested in you. We want the next guy. We don't want the departing Prime Minister. We want the guy that's coming into the job. We'll talk to Chris about that and about, the embarrassment at that summit of Britain's defence spending or lack thereof. We'll talk about that next. Stay exactly where you are.
What they're ashamed of is the English flag. Scottish flag, fine. Welsh flag, fine. Irish, everything like that's marvellous. But no. We can't be English. And this has been going on for a long, long time.
He would be Prime Minister of the most toxic political brand in the country at the moment, which is Labour. And that is what we will be battling against.
Our Prime Minister is allegedly attacked by another nation and nothing is said.
This is a reminder that Russia regards the United Kingdom as a hostile power.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, there's a couple of embarrassments for Keir Starmer. It's his swan song. He's on his way out, as he made clear yesterday. You will have remembered the list of fantastic achievements that he told us he chalked up during his 2 years as Prime Minister. I'll tell you what he's achieved, the square root of sod all, except for making this country one hell of a lot worse. Thanks, Keir. Off you go. Now, his Brexit reset talks have been delayed. They want to wait until Burnham's in situ. They think he'll be a soft touch. So Starmer's not going to get that. But more to the point, the final humiliation for never hear Keir is at the upcoming NATO summit, his last, in Turkey, where officials there, or NATO officials, have asked for a Burnham representative to be present. So there goes Keir Starmer, not with a bang, but a whimper. Let's talk to Rear Admiral, ex-NATO and Royal Navy Commander Chris Parry. Hello, Chris.
Hi, Kevin.
Obviously, I believe Dan Jarvis, the Defence Secretary, is going to have to go to this summit. Also, of course, Starmer will be there. But the NATO people have said, well, send us a representative of the next guy, because we don't particularly want to talk to you. You're no good to us. But as this humiliation unfolds, both Starmer and Jarvis, I presume, are going to have to persuade NATO, I would expect with a small degree of success, probably a total failure, that the feeble investment in defence that they're planning, £10 billion, when we need a minimum of 28 billion, they're going to have to persuade NATO that's good enough. Well, that's not going to work, is it?
Well, first of all, Kevin, you're absolutely right. But we need 65 billion. We're messing around in the shallow waters here when we're talking 10, 13 or 18. We really want to be credible. We need 65. But the fact of life is that, Keir Starmer's yesterday's man. He's been yesterday's man for the last 2 years, as far as I'm concerned. He hasn't got a grip on defence. He doesn't really understand it. He's just lost his Secretary of State for Defence and the Minister of the Armed Forces. And I'm afraid to say our armed forces have been run down on his watch to an unacceptable level for deterrence.
And what do you think is going to happen with Burnham? I mean, he is a man of mystery. He's a hollow man. We don't know much about him. You know, good-looking, chummy bloke from Manchester, plays football.
Do you think he's good-looking?
Nah, not really. He's not. Actually, you're right. That's an overstated thing, isn't it? Look, he's not, by political standards, by Westminster standards, you know what they say, politics is showbiz for ugly people. By political standards, Burnham is bloody well Brad Pitt or something, but
he's probably the least.
Yeah, he's not hideous. Put it that way.
That's the best you can.
Yeah, if I hear one more lady going on about his long eyelashes, I swear I will scream. But seriously, how do you think he's going to be about defence? He's made noises saying that I do appreciate we spend too much on welfare and not enough on defence. But is he going to get 60 billion? Is he going to get 28 billion from his backbenchers? What do you think?
So far, I hear that Andy Burnham is a man of promises rather than promise. He says a lot. I don't think he does a lot. And until he puts the money up and actually shows some interest in the armed forces, I'm not going to believe anything he says, to tell you the truth. I don't think he has a background or an interest in defence. I don't think he understands geopolitics or deterrence. He's been mayor of Manchester for the last 10 years. Frankly, he wants to be in the job as soon as possible, and I'm afraid he needs to have L plates when it comes to defence.
Now, look, you know, I'm a rank amateur, but I look at this government, I look at this Labour lot, and I think about the defence of the realm, the defence of this country, and, you know, I die a little inside. I sob, I weep about it. It's terrible. Now, as a professional, I mean, what do you make? What we've got here, quite clearly in my view, we have a party of ideologues who just think defence is sort of nasty and, you know, military and aggressive and, oh, let's spend the money on welfare. They do not seem to... Why can they not get it through their heads that this country needs to be defended properly? Why can't they understand that that is crucially important, as Keir Starmer so ludicrously said, the defence of this nation, the keeping people safe is my premier responsibility. Why can't they understand that for once in his useless life he was right when he said that?
Kevin, not one single major party has a coherent defence policy at the moment. I wouldn't follow any of them. Nobody's putting anything out that's serious. I can tell you what we've got at the moment is political parties trying to restore the capability we had in the 20th century. They are not facing up to the requirements and the dangers of the 21st century. And I would say that we've got 20th century forces with 19th century thinking at the moment. We need to be radical. We need to actually look at it from, if you like, first principles and say what needs to be done. I repeat, not one single party has a coherent defence policy.
John Healey was told, you're going to get 10 billion by Rachel from Accounts. She is probably counting her days as Chancellor right now, but she told Healey 10 billion when he said, if you don't give me 28 billion, I can't even do the basics. He said, I need 28 billion just to do the basics, to basically defend this nation, no frills. She said, oh, you can have 10. Well, if they carry on with this attitude, we're in deep trouble, aren't we?
Well, it's not down to how many billions, Kevin. It's down to the capabilities that you've got in the order of battle. And I'm afraid to say we've got to price that up. The other thing we've got to do is start saying, look, we need to keep our forces at combat readiness. I can tell you, when I was flying in the Royal Navy, we used to do 28 hours a month flying to keep current our operational role. I'll be surprised if our air crews right now in the Navy are doing a fifth of that.
I tell you,
that's absolutely ludicrous.
It is ludicrous, Chris. I've got to go now, but it's always good to have you on the show. Excellent stuff from Chris Barry there. Next up, it's Ben Habib. We'll go through some of the big stories of the day. Stay where you are.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In a little while, we're taking a look at the Peter Murrell situation. He's the former husband of Nicola Sturgeon, the First Minister of Scotland, and the former chief executive of the Scottish National Party, who today was imprisoned, sent to jail for 5 years and 3 months for embezzling £400,000 from party funds. His shame is complete. His former wife, Nicola Sturgeon, Queen of Scots, the First Minister in those days, no longer, of course, she maintains she knew nothing about his nefariously obtained wealth. Frankly, it's hard to believe her story. Either way, whether or not she knew about his embezzling or where he was getting his money from, the SNP seems to have been unravelling ever since caught in the slipstream of this sordid scandal. So Nicola Sturgeon and her husband may have wrecked the SNP as well as their own careers. We'll talk about that in 20 minutes or so. In the meantime, though, let's go through the big stories, you know, the Burnham-Starmer psychodrama, Brexit, 10 years of not bringing it about. Let's talk to former leader of the Advanced UK Party, Ben Habib. Hi, Ben.
Good evening, Kevin.
Well, first of all, let me show you, let's have a bit of fun first, shall we? I'll show you, this is what the Royal Mail posted on Twitter, on social media today. Have we got that picture? It's basically it's the Royal Mail saying, well, if you're moving home, you know, don't forget to tell us, you know, because sometimes people have to move home unexpectedly. So the Royal Mail put up this thing of number 10 Downing Street. We'll show you in a little while, and then I'll show you the reaction to that bloated use. There it is, look.
Yeah, so, it's a rather good post, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, just sometimes you have to, redirecting personal mail from private addresses, sometimes people have to move home all of a sudden when they were least expected. For life's unexpected moves. Perfectly harmless, pretty funny. Lord Tom Watson, the least deserving lord in history, and I don't say that lightly, he posted that this was incredibly insensitive. Can you believe these people? He said, yeah, what's it? Here we are. It's this is appallingly insensitive. What is he talking about? Doesn't he realise we're all laughing our heads off about Keir Starmer, 2-year Keir, because he was crap. He was a useless Prime Minister, and I don't buy all this. Oh, he's a nice, well-intentioned man. Was he? You tell that to pensioners. You tell that to waspy pensioners. You tell that to farmers. Was he a nice man? No, he was not only useless, he was an unpleasant person as well. Little joke at his expense. By Royal Mail, very funny. For life's unexpected moves, Tom Watson, the undeserved peer of the realm. This is appallingly insensitive. Where do these people get off?
Well, it clearly isn't insensitive. His own party, Tom Watson's own party, decided to eject the Prime Minister after 2 years.
To fire him. Yeah.
Presumably with cause. And if they've got cause, then it's not insensitive. I think, you know, these people have, and I think we as a nation are hijacked by this notion of victimhood. We saw that with Rachel Reeves. Do you remember in Parliament when she started blubbing and her lower lip started quivering in Parliament?
Yeah.
And she's meant to be the Chancellor of the Exchequer. And then you have the Prime Minister on the steps of Downing Street rightfully booted out of office. As you say, he's been an absolutely terrible prime minister. He's brought the country's economy to its knees. It was already in trouble, but he's brought it to its knees. He hasn't tackled any of the issues which he said he would tackle in his manifesto. And of course, our borders remain down. We've got masses of people coming in from France illegally all the time, and so on and so forth. And yet there he was on the steps of Downing Street, blubbing. I mean, can we not find a statesman in this country, someone who's got the backbone to actually do what's required? And if they fail to do what's required, at least fall on their sword gracefully. It used to be part of British culture. Do you remember?
Yeah.
We didn't have blubbers, we had statesmen.
Well, there's another, talking of that, I mean, that speech, John Sopel, the former BBC man, a long-term BBC lifer who now co-hosts that awful podcast, The News Agents, with Emily Maitlis and Lewis Goodall.
Oh yes, I know. Yeah.
He tweeted, you know, Keir Starmer's speech and said, you know, it was a highly dignified speech. It wasn't. It was a farrago of empty boasts and ludicrous lies. He just lied, said that his 2 years has been one long process of great achievement. Why are they sacking him then?
I know, quite. And John Sopel must be out for a knighthood or something, I suppose, you know, because Keir Starmer will have the opportunity now to ennoble and to honour a whole load of people who are not deserving of either, frankly, and that's going to happen. And we'll all be up in arms when we see the list of people they produce, because they'll all be useless.
Yeah, and John Sopel, of course, who called this a highly dignified speech, a speech of great dignity and even more pain. It wasn't. It was an excruciating pack of lies. Absolute pack of lies. He went out as he was in power, lying his head off, lying through his teeth, embarrassing empty boasts that didn't add up to a hill of beans. It really didn't.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he wouldn't have been fired if he'd been so brilliant and worthy of praise in his resignation speech. He was fired. He was fired because he did a rubbish job. And he should just get out now and make the least of it.
Well, don't forget, John Sopel is the man that really tore into the Sun, went mad about the Sun when it published those awful stories about his friend and colleague, Hugh Edwards. Oh, these are awful, sensationalist, tabloid scum. Look what they've done to this fine man. Thanks, John. In future, maybe wind your neck in and wait for the facts.
Quite.
Right, well, let's move on. Your thoughts about Andy Burnham? He's going to get crowned. It's a coronation. There won't be a challenge. He'll be sitting in 10 Downing Street, they think, by 17th of July.
Yeah. So this is extraordinary. This is extraordinary, Kevin, don't you think? A man who hasn't been in Parliament for 10 years, who's got close to zero experience as a minister, recent experience as a minister. Even before that, he didn't have much experience as a minister, but he's had close to zero experience for what is it now? Must be pushing 20 years that he hasn't had any government experience, and he's going to be anointed prime minister. Why does anyone think that that's going to produce a positive result? We need people in this country capable of governing. He is going to be incapable. And I know Starmer slightly stitched him up by giving him no period of time to come to terms.
Very deliberately. Starmer hates Burnham and vice versa. Let's get that straight. But Burnham is furious with Starmer for not letting him dither until September. So he's actually got to get down to do some work quickly. He won't be able to go on a summer holiday or something like that. And Starmer absolutely detests Burnham for stabbing him in the back. So you'll hear both of those men waxing lyrical about the brilliance of each other. They can't stand each other.
But the blame has to be on Burnham and the Labour Party for allowing himself and the Labour Party promoting Burnham into the prime ministerial position when he self-evidently and confesses he's not ready for that role. He wants a period of patronage from the outgoing Prime Minister so he can get himself ready. Well, if you're not ready, you shouldn't be putting yourself forward as Prime Minister. The Labour Party shouldn't be foisting this guy on the country. It's a declaration that they're not ready. They are incapable. They're incompetent for that post. And I just can't understand why Starmer, why the Labour Party, rather, sorry, forgive me, why the Labour Party would push Starmer out and put another self-declared incompetent into his position.
Exactly right. I mean, I have great fears for Andy Burnham. The one thing that there's a couple of positives in a sea of negatives. I mean, he's gonna send us hurtling leftwards. You think it's left wing now? You wait till he gets in. But the positives are, I mean, at least he speaks human. I think he's got bandwidth as a human being, which is more than Keir Starmer ever had. And I think he is a pragmatist. He's a bit like Boris Johnson. He wants to be popular. He's desperate to be popular. And I think he went to Makerfield, I think, intent on winning that election and then coming down to Westminster to get us back into the EU. The people of Makerfield told him, don't you dare. So I do think that pragmatically he might make a few decisions that people like you and I will approve of. Because
I hope so.
But because he won't want to incur the wrath of the people. But generally, I'm not optimistic.
No, I think the only thing that will temper his propensity to go extreme left is if the polls don't bounce up dramatically in his favour once he becomes Prime Minister. And I don't think they will. Everyone has been saying Burnham is going to boost the Labour polling. He won't. Maybe you'll see a
temporarily.
And if
the
you
Burnham
see a pop
bounce,
up, the Burnham bounce. I call it the burn the Burnham. But even if it bounces up, how much is it going to go up, Kevin? 2 or 3%?
It won't be for long. It won't be for long.
And so he's going to be tempered by the polling results. He's going to be held captive as Prime Minister. And this so often happens. When you change a Prime Minister midterm to someone who doesn't have a genuine mandate of the people, I appreciate we don't have a presidential system, but the people do vote for the Prime Minister. And this guy has not been elected as Prime Minister. He's declared himself not ready as well. He will be held in that position, almost hostage by the Labour Party. And he won't be able to go this way or that way. It's going to be pretty much a compromised government from day one. And that's a good thing for this country. We don't want this guy having a free hand.
I agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. Just a bit of breaking news while you're here, Ben. This is literally just broke. Bev Craig. No, me neither. The leader of Manchester City Council has been announced as Labour's candidate in the Greater Manchester mayoral election after former Mayor Andy Burnham returned to Parliament. Bev Craig is originally from Belfast and is the City Council's first female and LGBT leader. She grew up on a council estate just outside Belfast and moved to Manchester from Northern Ireland in 2003. So she will be there's a picture of her. She will be the Labour candidate in that mayoral election. A vacancy left because Andy Burnham is bored of running a city. He's bored of ruining a city. He wants to ruin the country. Now, Burnham and Starmer met today. What do you think they talked about? It would have been a very fractious meeting because they really don't like each other. No. Starmer is furious with Burnham, and now Burnham's furious with Starmer because he wanted to wait until September to get his merry-go-round on the road, but he's now got until July the 17th, and he doesn't like it. How long would it take you, if you were about to become the Prime Minister, if I was, this is what I would do. I would gather around I get my inner circle together, my advisors, my political best friends, 5, 6, 10 of us. And in one day flat, I would bash out a plan for the nation, a 100-day plan. Which it wouldn't take more than a day, would it? Why does he need until September?
No, well, quite. And this is the point. This is the point I'm trying to make, that if this man was truly desirous to be prime minister, he presumably has a vision of what he would do as prime minister, and he should be able to bang that out. He can use artificial intelligence to help him if he's incapable of finding someone with intelligence on the front benches of the Labour Party. He could use Claude, which I use now frequently. He could use that to come up with his plan. You know, Claude, by the way, is exceptional. You can get it to draft bills of parliament. So what I would suggest to Burnham, you can really do it. You can change things dramatically very quickly now. He should get in a room, as you suggest, Kevin, with his colleagues, and he should take in a laptop, and he should put into artificial intelligence all that they wish to do. First of all, sense test it, and then have to rewrite everything when Claude informs them it's a complete basket case of a country that they would create, and then produce a plan that they can deliver in the 100 days. Absolutely great idea.
Yeah,
get some artificial intelligence alongside his mates.
We have a very fast-moving culture, this country. People in this country move fast. We're all flying along very fast, jet speed. We have two sections of our community that don't tag along, that run at their own pace disastrously. One is the justice system, which grinds so slowly it hurts. You have to wait 2 years for a case. That's bizarre. And the other feature, the other section of our society that is not in lock with the rest of us is the political body, the body politic. They move at the speed of a snail. You know, nobody needs 3 months to work out your 100-day plan, but in politics they think, well, that's not even enough. What is the matter with them? Get on with it.
But
do some
Kevin,
work.
They move in the opposite direction. You know, I'm only half joking when I say they should use artificial intelligence, because if they were to plug in to an objective entity, the mood of the British people, and then plug into the same system the state of the country, and then plug in their policies that they intend to initiate and to use to govern the country, that objective analysis of what they intend to do would throw back at them instantly that this is not what the British people want. This is going to make our troubles much worse than they are. You need a 180-degree change in direction. But they won't do it. They will sit in this proverbial room with their colleagues and their mates, and they'll continue to practice this absurd ideology of borrow, tax, and spend. It's ever greater state intervention, ever more setting aside the personal agency of individuals in this country, removing aspiration, making us all dependent, driving home the victimhood culture so that the state can control us ever more. And that's the direction that has yielded the country into the position that we now find ourselves in desperate straits. But they will continue to do more of the same. That is what they're going to do. The only question is whether they do it faster, slower, more extreme, or in the same kind of deeply damaging pace that Starmer was doing it in.
We're going to get all-out socialism, which is over-regulation and a kind of lethargy. Over-regulation, and we're gonna hurtle leftwards. If you think it's been bad for the past 2 years, you ain't seen nothing yet. It's going to be a disaster, I think. But hey, let's try and be optimistic, eh, Ben? Good to have you on the show as always. The brilliant Ben Habib, there, former leader of Advance UK. Yeah, what do you think about this? What is Burnham going to do to the country? Do you think 0344 499 1000? He's going to regulate the backsides out of us, I'll tell you that. That's what socialists like. Loads of regulations, loads of laws, loads of diktats, massive government, sticking the nanny state nose into every aspect of your business. That's what they think the state's for. To run our lives as if they're any good at anything. Also, we're going to get very, very left-wing. You probably want to spend even more on welfare and even less on defence. It ain't good news, folks. What do you think? 03444 991 1000. Let's go to break, and when we come back, we'll talk to the political correspondent, the go-to man up there in Scotland. He is the political core of the Sunday Times and the Times in Scotland, John Booth. Boothman. We're going to talk about, of course, Nicola Sturgeon's estranged husband. I don't think they're quite divorced yet. Peter Murrell, former CEO of the Scottish National Party, who today went to jail for 5 years and 3 months for embezzling more than 400 grand from the party. Nicola Sturgeon says she never knew a thing about it. Didn't know where he was getting all this money to buy all these gifts, bringing hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of new stuff into the house. Big old camper, 120 grand. Oh, look, I bought a Jag, 80 grand. Didn't turn her hair, didn't know about it. Do you believe her? 0344 499 1000. Talk to John next. Stay where you are.
What they're ashamed of is the English flag. Scottish flag, fine. Welsh flag, fine. Irish, everything like that's marvellous. But no. We can't be English. And this has been going on for a long, long time.
He would be Prime Minister of the most toxic political brand in the country at the moment, which is Labour. And that is what we will be battling against.
Our Prime Minister is allegedly attacked by another nation and nothing is said.
This is a reminder that Russia regards the United Kingdom as a hostile power.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about Peter Murrell. He's still the husband of Nicola Sturgeon. They're estranged, but their divorce is, well, certainly not complete yet. So technically they are still married, but they haven't been together for some time. And there certainly won't be any reunions coming up anytime soon, because today Peter Murrell was jailed for 5 years and 3 months after admitting embezzling more than £400,000 from the Scottish National Party, of which he was the chief executive. This long-running succession of thievery lasted for 12 years. We've seen all the stuff that he brought into the house, the marital home. It's an extraordinary list. He seemed particularly intent on buying as many coffee machines as humanly possible. I don't know what that was all about, but it's one hell of a story. It's a strange story. Let's talk to the political correspondent of the Sunday Times and the Times up there in Scotland, our go-to man north of the border, John Boothman. Hi, John.
How are you doing?
Right, what do you make of this? I mean, he's got 5 years and 3 months. It would have been over 7 years had he not have pleaded guilty. So we all know about the ridiculous list of goods that he bought, you know, coffee machines left, right and centre, £1,000 library ladders, just ludicrous stuff, you know, model helicopters, £120,000 camper home, £80,000 Jaguar. Now, the question I've got to ask you, John, you know the question, it's this. Nicola Sturgeon insists she was entirely innocent of all this. She knew nothing about what he was up to. And yet there she was in the marital home for 12 years. She knew what his income was. She was the First Minister, the leader of the SNP. He was the chief executive. She must have known he was living seriously above his means. She protests she knew nothing of it. And frankly, people find that hard to believe. What is the mood up there in Scotland about their former leader?
Look, people this is a very, very strange aspect to this story. Nicola Sturgeon not only says that she didn't know about any of this, she also says that she didn't have any suspicion of any of this. Now, one of the things that was interesting was that Police Scotland and the Crown Office gave a briefing last week. They suggested at that briefing that they actually had further questions for Nicola Sturgeon after that no-comment interview that she gave after her arrest. You'll remember that. And, you know, we know that Nicola Sturgeon later sent a written statement covering, which has not been published, by the way, covering some of the things that she was asked at that interview. Her lawyer today basically released a statement suggesting that, again, she didn't know anything about this, but she also finds it disgraceful and beyond outrageous that she was being asked to comment on these remarks that had been made by Police Scotland. He's not a happy man. He repeated her position that she was angry and distressed by Murrell's actions and she was deceived by him. And, you know, the other big question of this, and Nicola Sturgeon herself raised this again today, is that she couldn't understand why he'd done this. We were hoping today to go to court and hear, maybe as part of the plea and mitigation by his lawyer, maybe something that might have arisen in the justice social work reports that have been completed since he pled guilty 29 days ago, that some light would be thrown on the motivation that Murrell had for committing these crimes. As you say, many hundreds of items bought, small and very large, over a 12-year period. And even the judge at the end of his summing up, just before he passed sentence, said he remained unclear as to why Murrell had done this. Very, very, very curious. So those two big questions. One, that question of what Nicola Sturgeon knew. As I say, she denies she knows anything. And that other question is, why did he do this? Still remain pretty open for people.
And isn't that just typical of Nicola Sturgeon's sort of assumption of high status, entitled, you know, absolutely outrageous I'm being asked to comment on this. Are you kidding, Nicola? You know, we're looking at this extraordinary list of expensive tat that he was bringing into your house on a daily basis. I mean, if I was the wife of a guy who came in one day and said, look, I bought this coffee machine, it's £950. And the next day I come in and said, look, I bought a kilo of Nescafe coffee beans. Oh, next day, look, I bought another coffee machine. Oh, just for good luck, I thought I'd go for the hat trick. I've got another coffee machine. There's a £1,000 wooden ladder up in the loft. That's to get to our library, even though we haven't got a library. Oh, there's a £120,000 camper home in the drive. Oh, there's an £80,000 Jaguar. She never asked a question. She thinks it's outrageous that we ask, what did you know, Nicola? And she thinks it's outrageous that very few people believe a word she says. Give me a break.
Look, one of the things our critics have said, that for a person who was known as a great micromanager, somebody who was in government across all the detail of everything that was going on, somebody who, you know, clearly was more than across most of the issues that the government faced, how she could find herself in a position where she says that none of this was known about. You've heard, for example, her explanation of the motorhome that she, well, appeared not to even see, that on the number of occasions that she was at her mother-in-law's house in Dunfermline, that the motorhome was there. And that's one of the things that people find acutely difficult in this. One of the, again, it's worth going back to what happened in court this morning. One of the things the judge said was that the punishment that he was giving to Murrell was intended as a deterrent to senior leaders of large organisations who might be tempted to act in the same way. There was some really interesting evidence led not by, a prosecution or anything, by Murrell's own lawyer, who said that, not just the sentence, but the humiliation that he faced, the ridicule he faced, went far beyond the court. Said he faced a bleak and solitary future. He would never work again, he said. And the other thing is, we're going to be back here in September, because that's when we're going to find out what happens to the motorhome. That should be sold under the proceeds of crime legislation. We will find out how much Murrell is required to pay back as part of a compensation order, and what happens with some of those goods, as I say, including the camper van that have been recovered by the police.
Indeed. Now, I want to get into the effect that this sleaze has had on the SNP generally, but one last question about Nicola, Queen of Scots, as she used to be. I mean, she really ran the show up there for a long time. When she was hauled in by Police Scotland, the Scottish police force, questioned for 10 hours, we only found out a couple of weeks ago when Murrell pleaded guilty. We only found out then that when she was interrogated by Police Scotland, she spent 10 hours saying no comment. Now, Police Scotland seem to have taken the view she got no case to answer. Well, if she spent 10 hours saying no comment, how do they know? Don't Police Scotland owe the people of Scotland an explanation about what has happened here? Because it doesn't seem satisfactory to me.
Look, to be fair, Police Scotland did say in a briefing last week that they had further questions for Nicola Sturgeon because, as you say, she spent all those hours giving no comment answers. What's interesting again now is that, one of the big demands that's being raised across a whole number of fronts, opposition parties and others, people are calling for a proper inquiry into this. John Swinney's continuing to reject that. He said he's made changes to the governance of the SNP, but people think there is a need for a bigger inquiry, not just into the circumstances surrounding what was going on in the SNP, but also in about some of the wider questions this raises about the regulation of political parties, for example. And, those demands aren't going to go away.
So Her Majesty could still face a few questions from the old bill, from the police.
Well, again, today, the guy who made the original complaint, a guy called Sean Clarkin, he made a complaint about the missing £600,000 that the SNP had raised in a referendum fund way back in, 2016-17, and it was that led to the police investigation. He says that he's going to pursue three things. He wants an investigation of some sort into why the Crown Office didn't charge Nicola Sturgeon in the first place. He thinks that there could be a private prosecution against Nicola Sturgeon either in England or Scotland about this. And he wants people who donated the cash to that 600,000 referendum appeal to get their money back. And he thinks there could be a class action set up by, small donors, lots of people who gave their 10s and their 20 quids to get their cash back.
Yeah, that's the scandal of it, isn't it, John? That this was money given by hard-working Scots people who support the SNP, and this guy ran off with it. This guy took the money of hard-working SNP supporters and spent it on himself. And it sounds like Nicola Sturgeon may have a few more questions to answer, and I think she needs to. John, great to talk to you as always. Thank you so much for coming on. John Boothman there, political correspondent for the Sunday Times in Scotland, about Peter Murrell, Nicola Sturgeon's husband, who's just gone to jail for 5 years and 3 months. She is still facing questions. She seems to think it's outrageous that we suspect or that we find her story of total innocence. I'm not saying she had anything to do with the thievery, the stealing, the buying of all this, but she must have wondered, where is he getting all this money from? Her idea that it never occurred to her, never even occurred to her to ask a question. That is very hard to believe. In fact, nobody believes her. And that's why Police Scotland, I think, have got to sort this out. An inquiry does need, what did she know? What is her real story? She can't just sit there for 10 hours saying no comment and think that's the end of the story. It's not the end of the story. Nicola has still got a way to go before she emerges into the warm light of total innocence. Right, let's move on, shall we? And next up, we're going to talk to Stephen Barrett, barrister and commentator, about the National Portrait Gallery, which has finally accepted, it seems, that it's not actually a good thing to tell lies about our greatest ever war leader, Sir Winston Churchill. We'll talk about that next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, I think it was last week we covered this story. This is the National Portrait Gallery. It was displaying an installation, a display about Winston Churchill, by the Turner Prize artist Helen Cammack. The video that Helen filmed to go with her installation, said that Winston Churchill deliberately and willfully inflicted mass starvation on millions of Indians during the Bengal famine of 1943. That's a lie. It's not true. The lethal food shortage was, in fact, caused by natural disasters and exacerbated by local mismanagement and wartime supply problems. Winston Churchill actually sent food out there, sent mercy parcels. He did what he could to help those benighted people. And yet there is Helen Cammack's installation saying Winston Churchill set out to deliberately starve millions of Indians. Not true, not true. Now, until a couple of days ago, the Portrait Gallery, which is taxpayer funded, we pay for it, was sticking to its guns, saying, oh, this is artistic and, this is a viewpoint. It's not a viewpoint, it's not true. Anyway, the gallery today said it's now removed. It's finally accepted. It's not good to tell lies about our greatest ever war leader. It said today Helen Cammack decided to remove her film, Persistence, from display at the National Portrait Gallery. We respect her decision, just as we acknowledge the opinions of those who were offended by what was said in the film. It's not opinions. They were offended by an historical inaccuracy which the National Portrait Gallery sponsored, and as a taxpayer-funded gallery, it should not do that. Let's speak to barrister and commentator Stephen Barrett. Well, you got the gist of that. I mean, kicking and screaming after 2 weeks, Stephen, the National Gallery gets this Helen Kammock woman to finally remove this disgraceful video and installation that said that Winston Churchill deliberately starved millions of Indians in the Bengal famine of 1943. That's just not true, and I want to know what a taxpayer-funded art gallery in central London was doing sponsoring that historical lie about our greatest ever war leader.
Well, it is a lie, Kev. So that's the most important thing to fixate on. The gallery and the artists engaged in statements which are simply not true. Now, Kev, this has been going on for decades. And for decades, the policy has been to simply don't say anything. There are all sorts of untruths which certain sections of our society cling on to. Men can become women. That type of thing. And every time for 30 years, somebody's pointed this out and gone, do you know what, that's just not true. They've met an absolutely hysterical reaction. And if you like, the establishment reaction, the establishment view has been to blame the person who actually sided with truth. To say, do you know what, just don't make them kick off. You know, just indulge them a little bit. Just indulge them. You know, just don't. There's no need to tell them that Churchill didn't deliberately murder people in a famine, or that men can't become women, or many of the other, you know, just fictional beliefs which have become shibboleths to these people. That was always an unsustainable position, and I think over the last 5 years in particular, we've realised we're actually going to have to call these people out. There's another one, Kev, that I'm more than happy to point out as a complete lie, which is the idea that Israel commits a genocide in Gaza. That's another one of these things. Yep. They've got these little things, they like to cling onto them. They're like, I don't know, emotional support teddy bears for them, but they're just not true. And it's just, and we cannot go back to being a society where our immediate reaction is to just don't scare them. Don't tell them. This is the Tony Blair way. Don't tell the far left that they're actually wrong, because they'll scream and scream and scream until they're very sick. They might get violent. So just somehow find a way through without having to upset these people. And there is no longer a way through, Kev. There is no, once we're at the stage of a big, important gallery hosting lies about Churchill.
That's the point. I'll just read the full, in fairness to the gallery, I'll read their full statement. I read a bit of it just now, but here we go. Today, Helen Kammock decided to remove her film Persistence from display at the National Portrait Gallery. We respect her decision, just as we acknowledge the opinions of those who were offended by what was said in the film. The aim of this project was to give artists the opportunity to create works as personal and creative responses to our collection. The work was presented as an artistic piece, not a documentary, and the views expressed in the film do not necessarily reflect those of the National Portrait Gallery. Well, you know, that's a very, very pretentious way of describing a clear, deliberate lie. And a state-sponsored, a taxpayer-funded National Gallery should not be sponsoring that kind of pernicious lie about a very great man, by the way.
It's also very weak, Kev. Notice the language. They've not said, we have realised this is a lie and we have removed this exhibition. They pass all power onto her, onto the third party. This is what I mean by the Blairite way of sort of assuaging, sort of, you know, dealing with these effectively what they are is a rampaging toddler. And you don't deal. I've been a parent, and I'm telling you right now, we had one toddler temper tantrum, and that was it. You know, because you just don't deal with toddler temper tantrums this way. But for 30 years, we believe that this is the way you deal with it. You pretend that she voluntarily withdrew the exhibition. Yeah. You pretend all of this.
They've got her to do that. They've got themselves out of this predicament by persuading her to remove her video. That would be my version of events that I'm sure is accurate. They've said, come on, get us out of a hole. Can you get rid of your lying video? But this is the new fashion, isn't it? It is at all costs, at all times, can we try to undermine Winston Churchill? The man was a racist. The man was a a white supremacist. The man tried to murder millions of Indians. You know, racism, white supremacism, they're words. Look, Winston Churchill was a man of his age, and to vilify him for opinions that aren't fashionable today is just juvenile, it's infantile. But there is this movement now at all costs. Let's undermine, let's ruin the reputation of Winston Churchill, because somehow or other, by so doing, we can ruin the history of this country as well. It's all about self-loathing by middle-class liberals, isn't it?
It's all very weak. It's all very targeted against strong men, anyone who's a hero. Winston was a colossal hero of our time. You know, he stood up against evil. It's all about attacking the people who stand up against evil. It's all about perverting what is good. It's all about inverting truth, making people feel uncomfortable, making people feel dependent upon them, and then getting their way through a toddler temper tantrum. And that is why, Kev, ultimately, I will describe Blairism, which I fear we still live under Blairism, and we have done for 30 years, is basically just bad parenting, where you indulge the toddler and look at where you end up. Because now our toddlers are blocking the highway, they're attacking works of art, they're spray painting buildings, they're smashing glass windows. Our toddlers are now all in their mid-20s and they're completely out of control.
Indeed. Well, they've all got the day off today because hundreds of schools have closed across the land because the weather's hot. So what do they think those kids are going to do? Spend the day inside with the curtains drawn? They'll all be down the park, won't they? Or down the beach or whatever the hell they do. It's ridiculous. That notwithstanding, I'm hoping you're going to come on for a longer section on Thursday, your normal slot at 6 p.m. But in the meantime, you've got one sentence because I've got to move on. Try to sum up what you think will happen with this country when Andy Burnham is the Prime Minister.
Absolutely nothing. He's Keir Starmer with dyed hair. That's it.
Dyed hair, we'll have to look into that. Going to see you on Thursday, I hope, Stephen. Great to have you on the show. Thank you very much. Stephen Barrett. Keir Starmer with dyed hair. Thank you, mate. Stephen Barrett, barrister and commentator there. We're going to talk World Cup next because, of course, it's England-Ghana tonight. We're going to speak to Lloyd Camfield. He's the Chelsea and England reporter for The Sun newspaper. That next. You better stick around.
What they're ashamed of is the English flag. Scottish flag, fine. Welsh flag, fine. Irish, everything like that's marvellous. But no. We can't be English. And this has been going on for a long, long time.
He would be Prime Minister of the most toxic political brand in the country at the moment, which is Labour. And that is what we will be battling against.
Our Prime Minister is allegedly attacked by another nation and nothing is said.
This is a reminder that Russia regards the United Kingdom as a hostile power.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, lucky sods over in Boston ahead of, well, for us, tonight's England game against Ghana. He is Lloyd Canfield, Chelsea and England reporter for The Sun, over there on the scene. Well, Lloyd, let's get your thoughts about tonight's big match. You'll be there. Who's going to win? What's the score?
I think Croatia would have been the toughest test for England, and they swept them aside with significant ease in the second half. The first half was a bit of a struggle. Tonight, hopefully, will be easier for England and more straightforward. Thomas Tuchel's called for better, which is nice to see from an England manager. And hopefully he gets that. I think England will sweep Ghana aside fairly easily.
Any team news, Lloyd?
Not so far. We're expecting pretty much the same starting 11 as what we saw against Croatia. I wouldn't expect him to change things too much. Maybe Mark Gay will come in, but I'd expect more rotation in New York when they play Panama, with the likes of Ivan Toney probably to get some minutes, Morgan Rogers. But hopefully England will be top of the group by then.
I don't think up in Boston they've got one of these covered stadiums with air conditioning, but I'm hearing that won't matter because it's actually reasonably chilly there, isn't it, and raining?
Yeah, well, you can see me. I spoke to a friend back in London today, and I've heard how warm it is there. But you can see me. I've got my jumper on. I've got a raincoat on. It's fairly rainy, a bit. I wouldn't say chilly, but it's not warm. The fans, though, of course, are just wearing their shirts and they're braving the rain. I'm not quite that brave.
But that'll be good for us because it's pretty hot in Ghana and generally speaking, not that hot here. So the conditions will favour us. Settle an argument while you're on, Lloyd. Messi got 2 goals. He scored 5 goals so far in this tournament, the ripe old age of 39. Meanwhile, old Cristiano Ronaldo, Piers Morgan's hero, hasn't been playing so well, and that seems to be settling the debate. Who's the greatest of all time? In your view, is it Messi and not Ronaldo? Where do you stand?
For me, there's never been a debate. It's always been Messi. He's showing this tournament, and he showed in the last tournament why it's him. But as brilliant as Ronaldo is, there's no debate. It's Messi. It always has been, always will be.
And in 10 minutes, Portugal actually kick off against Uzbekistan. I presume we're tipping Portugal to win that, are we?
Yeah, you'd back Portugal. I mean, they've got so many world-class players in their team, especially in midfield. And, of course, they do have Ronaldo, but he didn't really look up for it in the first game. I'd back him to still try and turn things around, and I'm sure he's that kind of player where he can turn things around for Portugal at this tournament. But they're not as threatening, I don't think, as they have been in the past, despite all the good players that they've got. And if England are to match up against them in the round of 32, which at the minute they would, I assume things would change. But I wouldn't be overly afraid of them if I'm England either.
Absolutely. I mean, England looked very strong in that second half against Croatia. One last question to you, Lloyd. You're there in Boston. There were stories earlier in the week that when the Scots turned up, that they absolutely livened the city. Everybody loved the Scots fans marching through the centre of town with pipe bands and all that. And that was really party central. There have been some stories that the England fans have now come in and there's a much sort of darker atmosphere about them. The locals are finding the England fans a little bit more threatening than the Scots. What are you hearing about that, or what's your feeling? You're on the scene.
No, I think threatening is probably the wrong word. I think the Scots were just so beyond loved here that it would be hard to match that in any capacity. I think the reception to England fans generally has been positive here, the same way it was in Dallas. I mean, in Dallas, they absolutely adored the England fans, but they hadn't had the Scots there. So I'd imagine when the Scots go there, they'll probably think, oh, we thought England were brilliant, but this is even better.
Well, you can beat the Scots on the field of play, but you can't beat them off the field of play. It's as simple as that. Lloyd, great to talk to you. Enjoy the match tonight. That's Lloyd Canfield, Chelsea and England reporter for The Sun, live there in Boston. I think it's kick-off at 9 o'clock here on the telly. And TalkSport will be covering it as well, of course. Bring you more details of that later. We've got time now, I think, before we go to the 6 o'clock news, to take at least one call. And I think we'll go over to one of our favourite callers. She's Jill from Cornwall. Hi, Jill. Nicola Sturgeon, do you believe her when she says she knows nothing of what her husband was up to during those dark days, 12 years, when he's bringing home £120,000 camper vans, £80,000 Jaguars, 3 coffee machines, toy helicopters, God knows what. Do you believe her?
No, I do not. For goodness sake, honestly, I cannot believe anyone who is with someone else, a partner, a husband, whatever. If they suddenly came home with. If they suddenly came home with a blinking camper van, parked it out the front, wouldn't the person that they're living with say, "Oh, where did we get that? Who paid for that? Where does that money come from?" I cannot believe that she is. Well, I don't know. I think politicians are proving me.
Yeah, she got very angry, Joe. She got very. It's outrageous that people are questioning me. Well, look, here's why we're questioning her. Here's why we don't. Well, we're finding her story hard to believe. It's this. This is not just any old marriage, right? This was the marriage between the leader of the Scottish National Party and the chief executive of the Scottish National Party. So she knew exactly how much he was earning, and vice versa for that matter. So she must have said, hang on a second. I mean, I don't know what his income was. I think I did read it. It was only about £90,000 a year. OK, that's a good income, but it doesn't sustain everything he was buying. So she knew what he was earning, and she's asking us to believe that never once did she think, this is a bit odd, all this stuff he's bringing home all the time. She's asking us to believe that. I find it hard to believe.
She's got a blinking cheek. She really has to get angry because people want to know what happened to the money that was contributed by the people who supported that party. I mean, she's got a cheek. She should be. It just goes to show how stupid she is if she really didn't know anything.
Well, we hear, Jill, that it's not over for her, that the police are now saying, it's Police Scotland, who interviewed her for 10 hours and all she said was no comment, are now saying that does leave questions unanswered and they want them answered. There are calls for an inquiry into this, if not by the SNP, then by the Scottish Government. So I don't think she's out of the woods yet, and frankly, she doesn't deserve to be out of the woods. She needs to construct a more believable, plausible story.
And the police need to be looking into this. They shouldn't just stand by and wait for her to sort of either admit something, or they should be looking into it. It's a lot of money, for goodness sake. I can't believe these people when they turn around and say that they didn't know anything at all. I mean, how stupid have you got to be to not question when something turns up outside or indoors, or a gold watch, or I mean, no, I'm sorry.
No, I'm with you, Jill. I'm with you. I want more questions answered. I really, really do. And I think Nicola Sturgeon's rather entitled, haughty, superior attitude. How dare you question me? I think she's going to find that does not cut the mustard, nor should it. Jill, always great to talk to you. Thank you for another excellent call. Jill in Cornwall there. Get on the phone if you can, because we've got lots to talk about today. I want to know what you think about Andy Burnham. Is he going to be a good Prime Minister? Is he going to lurch us left? Is he going to get us to rejoin the EU? Who's going to get fired? Who's going to stay hired in his cabinet? Rachel Reeves, is she going to go? 03444 99 1000. You could talk to me if you like about Brexit. 10 years after Brexit, why haven't we achieved it yet? What's gone wrong? Why do the political elite keep trying to thwart the democratic decision of the people of Britain? Why is that? 03444 499 1000. Get on the phone. Let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk. Or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I'll play your message out. But get on the phone, 03444 499 1000. Next up, we're going to go through the big stories of the day with the director at Popular Conservatism, Mark Littlewood. So you don't want to miss that. Stick around. Be back in a mo.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In a little while, we're going to talk to Joe Wheeler, our resident weather expert, about this very, very hot weather. You know, I mean, basically, I suppose you've got to be slightly careful, yeah, you know. But I mean, this sort of orgy of risk-averse, hand-wringing warnings that we go into every time the sun comes out. The BBC is like, don't go out, draw the curtains. Take one step outside your door, you're definitely going to die. It's just a nice day. Why? Why do we do this? Why the hell are hundreds, count them, schools closed today? Why? Because it's nice weather. Because it's hot. We're supposed to educate kids, not give them a day off as soon as the sun comes out. It's ridiculous. What's going on? We'll talk about that in a little while. But first, let's spend the next 20 minutes or so in the excellent company of the director at Popular Conservatism, Mark Littlewood. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Kev. Good to be with you. I've gone over to the island of Mallorca to escape the sunshine, Kev.
Yeah, yeah. To get
28 degrees here.
Yeah, to enjoy the cool, refreshing weather there, the bracing weather of Mallorca. Excellent. Well, enjoy that because it is seriously hot here. It's like a furnace. We'll talk about the football in a little while. Good to see you're still in World Cup mode, but. Starmer today met Andy Burnham. We're hearing increasing tales of the fact there is no love lost between these two men. Starmer is furious with Burnham because he thinks he stabbed him in the back. Quite why Starmer didn't think that Burnham was after his job from day one, God only knows. It's probably that dreadful political antenna of Starmer's kicking into action once again. Burnham, meanwhile, loathes Starmer, particularly because Starmer has said, right, I'm off now. I'm not waiting till September. And Burnham wanted all those months to sort out his plan for his government. Why does he need all those months? Why does he need, what is it now, July, August? Why does he need the best part of 3 months to to make his plan? You, me, and 5 clever people, we could work out a game plan for a government with 1 hard day's work, 8 hours around a desk, I would suggest. Why does this bozo Burnham want 3 months?
It's extraordinary, Kev, because the other thing is I reckon I would need a few days if I was suddenly prevailed upon to be Prime Minister. But Andy Burnham has presumably been thinking about this for a year. He might not have known that he was going to get there, which now looks like he inevitably will. But surely he had in his mind the sort of things that he would do. You should be able to put a cabinet together instantly. I mean, you know, prime ministers reshuffle their cabinets at, you know, an hour or two's notice and slot the right people into the right spaces. And he's also got the luxury, the joy from the point of view of the prime minister, that if he's the only nominated candidate for the Labour leadership, which looks likely, he will become Labour leader and prime minister just as Parliament is rising. So he'll have half of July and all of August, basically quite quiet months, to put his team together and to put his plans together. It's not like he's taking over at the start of a parliamentary session. He'll be taking over right at the end of a parliamentary session. So if he's not ready, if he doesn't feel he's capable of doing it, why on earth did he run in Makerfield? Why on earth has he plunged the knife more into Keir Starmer's front than his back? You would have thought there's at least the skeleton of a plan that he could execute immediately if he became Prime Minister in the next 30 minutes.
Does the standard of our governing party the Labour Party worry you, particularly those who might be considered to be at the top of the pile, those who might contend for cabinet positions? What I'm referring to was those excruciating, tawdry selfie pictures with Burnham yesterday. This was after the swearing in of a, parochial MP from the north. He'd just won a by-election. You'd think it was Jesus Christ, the second coming. There they all are, gathering behind him, basically crawling and creeping. Gets a job, can you? Rachel Reeves, I mean, we've got to look at her character now, haven't we? She's been technically, she's a terrible chancellor, we know that. She's ruined the country in 2 disastrous years. 2-year Keir, hopeless chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves, Rachel from accounts. So her boss, her friend, Keir Starmer, is making his tear-stained pack of lies speech as he departed Downing Street. There's a few of his supporters there. She's not there. He's busy lying and boasting. Look at all of my achievements. There weren't any achievements, mate. You are leaving the country in a much worse state than when you took it over. Let's not make any bones about that. But she should have been there. No. She's over jostling for position behind Andy Burnham. She wants to be in the selfie. She wants to be still the chancellor. She's got no chance of that. But I do think that behaviour, that pattern of behaviour yesterday, just ditching this man who stood by her thick and thin, Keir Starmer, gave her the opportunity, she's ditching him like that and going off to being the selfie of the new guy, can I still be your chancellor? I think that means she's disqualified. She should never have had that job. She hasn't got the right strength of character. She is not a good human being, I would suggest.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Kev, would I go so far as to say it was a dishonourable way to act? Yeah, possibly I would. I mean, for all of the damage that they have caused, Starmer and Reeves, Keir Starmer loyally stood by Reeves as Chancellor. Quite a lot of pressure on him at various points to fire her, to get rid of her, and he stood by her. And you would have thought that the least he could expect from that is that she would attend his resignation speech. Worth remembering, of course, that some of Starmer's loyal lieutenants were darting in from all over the country, probably on a delayed train like Andy Burnham was returning to Westminster. But Rachel Reeves, for heaven's sake, lives next door. Like, she just needs to walk out of her drawing room to be on Downing Street. She wasn't miles away or desperately trying to fight through a traffic jam on a motorway. So I thought that was poor. And to your wider point, this is what I really worry about. Look, I did have a wee glass of something to celebrate Keir Starmer's defenestration yesterday. But we do seem to be just moving into a world in which politics is just about memes and vibes. I have studied everything Andy Burnham has said, and it just seems to be smiles, motherhood, and apple pie, and a bunch of selfies. I can't detect any content. It is not obvious to me at all which parts of the Starmer agenda he's going to jettison, which parts he'll keep, and which parts he will double down on. So we've got a politics which is now all about getting yourself into the right slot on a selfie photograph in the hope that you've positioned yourself for great power, but no discussion at all of any merit or any depth whatsoever about what these people might actually do with the power once they're wielding it. And I find that absolutely disastrous for public life, and I think it bodes ill for the Burnham administration. Look, he'll probably get a bit of a honeymoon period, right? People will give him a fair hearing. But I think unless he actually spells out what he wants to do in the coming days, weeks, and perhaps a couple of months, people will lose patience fast. And this indication that he's sort of signalling he's not ready to take over says it all. I mean, if you're not ready to take over, bury your nose in some policy papers. Don't just take selfies of yourself in Westminster Hall.
Exactly right. I mean, you think he might have learned. I mean, Keir Starmer's great mistake, among many, was when he got into power, the first day he won the election, he sat down with his disastrous then Chief of Staff, Sue Gray. She said to him, OK, what's your plan for the first 100 days? And he went, hey? Yeah. He didn't have one. You'd think that Burnham might have learned from that. He needs a bloody plan, doesn't he? And he obviously hasn't got one. But we know what's going to happen. what's going to happen is Andy Burnham will plunge us as far left as he is humanly able to do within the pragmatic bounds of reality, insofar as it may be, fingers crossed, the city and the bond markets will tell him, you make that lunatic Ed Miliband the Chancellor of the Exchequer, and we will make your premiership last probably a shorter period of time than Liz Truss's. So there may be those realities that might make a pragmatic man like Andy Burnham govern with a reasonable amount of moderation. But if he had his way, we would hurtle leftwards. It would be a socialist paradise stroke dystopia. No mistake about that at all.
Yeah, and Kev, I'm a bit worried that he will get his way, or at least half his way. We're already seeing speculation that they might ratchet up capital gains tax. This would be disastrous for business. So what they're going to reach for as their first two tools in economic policy is basically, are there any more taxes we can put up to try and squeeze the private sector of the UK economy yet more? And if there's still a gap at the end of it, let's borrow more. And that, I'm afraid, is a recipe for continued decline. He also, Andy Burnham, I think, hasn't yet signalled what sort of so-called fiscal rules is he going to abide by. Now, look, in practice...
Well, because he doesn't understand what they are. He doesn't know what they are.
Yeah, so that, I agree, that worries me considerably. He might not like the present set. He might think they're too strict in one area, perhaps not strict enough in another. But what the markets want, and when we say the markets, these are people that the government are asking to lend them money, right? If you don't want to be in hock to the bond markets, stop borrowing money. But if you want to borrow money, you have to meet the terms at which people are willing to lend you money. And generally, people will not lend you money at a decent rate. They will dial the rate up if they think your books are not in good order. And I've not yet heard anything really from Prime Minister designate Andy Burnham that will suggest that the books are going to be in any better order than they've been in the last couple of years, and quite possibly worse order. And if that happens, these so-called gilt yields dial up. That's to say, if people are going to lend you money, they want a higher rate of return. That higher rate of returns comes straight out of our taxes. None of it is spent on public services. And at the moment, I fear we are on that trajectory from the moment that Andy Burnham finally walks through the front door of number 10 Downing Street.
Well, Cabinet Secretary Pat McFadden complained, we learnt this the other week. He said, you know, the problem with all of these left-wing Labour backbenchers, all the people in the Labour Party, is the only question they ever ask me is, who can we tax in order to give more benefits to others? Now, I suspect and I fear that's Andy Burnham's worldview as well. He won't have any appetite or enthusiasm for reducing our grotesque welfare bill, 350 billion quid a year and rising. And I don't think he'll have much appetite to increase our feeble defence spending, both of which do not, to borrow your phrase, bode well for the future.
Yeah, I think that's right. And there are other things as well where the silence is deafening, right? I mean, it's 10 years ago today, isn't it, that we voted for Brexit in the referendum, but we have not used any of our powers around regulation and red tape to really do anything other than to further tighten regulation on businesses. We've put in even more of it. So even if you think, even if Andy Burnham was to think this tax spending borrowing equation, it's a bit of a headache, I'm going to kind of mend and make do, and, you know, all right, maybe borrowing costs will go up a bit, I'm just going to have to swallow that. At the very least, you would have thought he'd come to the table and say that on the supply side of the economy, what economists call the supply side of the economy, we can do some stuff to help. We're going to burn some red tape for you. We are going to reduce the burden of regulation. So, sorry if your taxes are going up just a little bit, but we hope your compliance costs will fall a lot. Well, the silence has been deafening here. I can't think of a single sector of the economy which will be regulated more liberally with less red tape in future, and you can already start to see coming into view sectors that he might actually target. So even on that bit, which governments can do for free, right? It is free to get rid of regulations. It doesn't cost you a bean if you've got the political will to do it, but no word or obvious sentiment or clear thought or plan has yet crossed Andy Burnham's lips as far as regulation and red tape is concerned.
Absolutely. And there are two scenarios that will doom Andy Burnham's government to almost instant failure, and they both involve Ed Miliband, who he's very close to. He's his closest political friend, and that's really frightening in itself. I always said that I've been saying the last couple of days, a Prime Minister who even for a second remotely thought maybe I'll make Ed Miliband the Chancellor of the Exchequer doesn't deserve to be the Prime Minister. Even if that thought flitted through his head momentarily, that disqualifies him from being PM, if you ask me. However, these are the two scenarios that will ruin Andy Burnham's administration. One, making Ed Miliband Chancellor of the Exchequer, absolutely disastrous. Probably to the extent that the markets, the city, the bond markets will tell the government we're not having this, and it'll be a Liz Truss all over again. In some ways I might like that. Then we'll have to have a general election. Hopefully Labour will lose that. The other scenario, and this is what I think may well happen, is he leaves Ed Miliband as nut zero maniac secretary. And this guy keeps tanking our economy with this ludicrous zealotry, not drilling in the North Sea, losing hundreds of thousands of jobs in Scotland, ruining businesses, shutting down farms, putting up windmills all over the place, kidding himself, deluding himself that somehow or other windmills and solar panels can power this country. They can't. So if he leaves, refusing to fracking would save this country. It would save this country. We'd have money to spend on defence and everything else. If only we started fracking. He won't do that. So if he leaves Ed Miliband as net zero, that will be almost as damaging as making him Chancellor of the Exchequer. In the ideal world, he'd sack Ed Miliband's backside straight out of the cabinet, but he won't do that. I suspect it will leave him at net zero. That will doom him to disaster.
Yes, I agree with that. And again, this exposes, Kev, a big gap between the Burnham rhetoric, which all sounds very nice. He said in his victory speech at Makerfield, what we've really got to focus on is reindustrialisation. OK, I want to hear more. But you're not going to get any reindustrialisation if your principal energy strategy is based around this ludicrous march to net zero. You can either have cheap and abundant energy, or you can have a plan to hit net zero. You cannot have both. Now, Ed Miliband's lane is to go for the net zero target, and if energy isn't cheap and abundant, so be it. We're apparently saving the planet. But if you really want to reindustrialise, you have to face the reality that British businesses are facing energy costs 4 times that of American businesses. Now, there are a range of reasons in that, but our mad energy policy is indeed one of them. And if British businesses, industries, are facing costs 4 times that of the Americans, how on earth do you think UK businesses can credibly compete with US businesses? They can't. So I agree with you. I think we will get the very small consolation that Ed Miliband won't be Chancellor. I suspect it will be Wes Streeting. But that small consolation is still matched by my stomach being full of dread that the Ed Miliband crazy net zero stuff will continue and mouthing reindustrialisation will be as far as they get. They'll wish for it as if they're doing some sort of rain dance, but they won't change policies to actually bring it about. And I think you're right. That is the road to rack and ruin, Kev. Unless we abandon net zero, and all bets are off in terms of trying to reindustrialise Britain.
Yeah, all rancid roads lead to Ed Miliband, and we still don't know really where Ed Miliband stands on the migrant crisis, defence and so many other issues. Let's quickly, before you go, as I say, I can see you're in World Cup mode. Let's talk about tonight's match and the World Cup generally. Breaking news, this is astonishing. The big debate, of course, who's the greatest of all time, who's the GOAT? It's Lionel Messi. According to this World Cup, he scored 3 goals in his first game, 2 in his second. Everybody goes, forget about Cristiano Ronaldo. Lionel Messi's 39. Cristiano Ronaldo of Portugal is 41. He's just scored for Portugal against Uzbekistan, and that makes him the second oldest goal scorer in the World Cup ever at the age of 41. So don't write Cristiano off yet.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Look, it's pretty incredible that these two players, who have definitely been the greatest of their generation, Messi and Ronaldo, aren't just still playing in their late 30s, early 40s. They're potentially the best players in the tournament. Messi has scored 5 goals. All 5 Argentinian goals have been scored by Lionel Messi. It's absolutely incredible. And what's exciting about this World Cup is each of the big teams and some of the dark horses have got a total standout talismanic player. You've got Ronaldo for Portugal, you've got Messi for Argentina, you've got Harry Kane for England, you've got Mbappe for France, and they're starting to come good. So I think that bodes extremely well for the tournament. The only real problem for me is the games are going late into the night, right? Yeah. So you've got to stay up. If you're such a connoisseur as I am of football and you're determined to stay up to watch Jordan versus Algeria, it means you have to go basically a month without
5 in the morning or something.
That's pretty much what I've been doing.
Well, go England tonight. I think they'll win 3-0. I think it'll be a comfortable victory. Fingers crossed for that. And in the meantime, you enjoy the cold weather there in Mallorca while we boil here. And great to talk to you, Mark, as always. It's always a pleasure. Thank you so much. That is Mark Littlewood, the director at Popular Conservatism. Right, let's go to break here. And when we come back, we'll talk to meteorologist Joe Wheeler about these very hot temperatures. Apparently, it's going to go on for the rest of the week. It's going to get even hotter. London's like a furnace right now. And maybe talk a little bit about what I would suggest is an overreaction. Why have we closed hundreds of schools? Why do you think that is? Let me know. I mean, when I was a kid, you know, we were expected to turn up to school, come rain or shine, freezing snow, boiling weather, with nothing. You know, you're expected to turn up, you know. The state's going to educate you. You've got to be in the classroom. Now, we can't wait to give them... Oh, the sun's out. You've got the day off. Go down the beach. Go to the park. Enjoy yourself. Who needs to learn maths or English or history? You go down the park. You get the hell out of the classroom and you enjoy it. What a ridiculous... Why have we closed hundreds of schools today? I think that's an abrogation of duty. Supposed to educate these kids, not give them the day off because the sun's out. 03444 99 1000. We'll talk to Joe Wheeler, meteorologist, next.
What they're ashamed of is the English flag. Scottish flag, fine. Welsh flag, fine. Irish, everything like that's marvellous. But no. We can't be English. And this has been going on for a long, long time.
He would be Prime Minister of the most toxic political brand in the country at the moment, which is Labour. And that is what we will be battling against.
Our Prime Minister is allegedly attacked by another nation and nothing is said.
This is a reminder that Russia regards the United Kingdom as a hostile power.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Taking your calls in a little while. You know what we're talking about? Andy Burnham. How do you rate him? How do you think his premiership is going to be? Is he going to take us left? He's going to rejoin the EU? What happened to Brexit? On the 10th birthday, the 10th anniversary of the day this nation voted democratically to leave the Brussels gang, why are we still attached to them? Why have the political elite of this country spent a decade, a disastrous decade, trying to thwart the will of the people? What is the point of democracy if politicians decide that when there's a vote they don't like, they'll try and overturn it? That's not democratic. So what is going on with Brexit? Let me know. 03444 99 1000. Why is this government trying to get us closer to Brussels? We voted to get further away from them. You know, this is the will of the people. This is democracy. What's going on? 03444 99 1000. Let's talk now about the weather. Heatwave Britain hit by serious thunderstorms last night. I know about this because my roof ceased to function, really. The ceiling, I had literally, I'm not kidding you, I had a foot of water in my kitchen. That was great. 4 in the morning, fantastic. What a night I had. Flat roofs, folks, don't have them. Let's talk to Jo Wheeler. She's a meteorologist at Square Raindrop. Hi, Jo.
Hello there. Yes, it's certainly very warm at the moment and humid, and really that's the bigger part of the story, the humidity, because the high temperatures, well, I would say we're used to them. In fact, we're likely to see some records broken, as indeed we did last month. We're looking at the moment at 34.5 it was today. That's knocking on 95 degrees Fahrenheit. The June record is a little bit higher than that. But we're likely to break that. There's about a 90% chance that we'll see that record broken before the end of the week. And that will be the first time since 1911 that we've seen 2 consecutive months records broken.
Will that be like 100 degrees in old money?
Today, 34.5.
But later in the week, we might get 100 degrees.
Later in the week. Yeah, it's edging towards that. Now, of course, the UK all-time record is 40.3. That was set in July 2022 at RAF Coningsby.
Okay.
And at that point, the humidity we had was slightly less than 5%. Now, the high temperature that we're seeing this week, we're looking at relative humidity between 20 and 25%. So you can see it's not just the heat, it's the humidity. And I think that's probably why schools are being shut and such precautions are being taken. Certainly, that's the reason why we've got heat warnings, because last month, as I say, another record-breaking month, but we didn't have any warnings then at all.
Why do you, this isn't your remit, of course. You're here to talk about the weather, and I'll ask you where all this hot weather's coming from in just a second. But, you know, no offence, but you're of a certain age. I'm of a certain age. When I was a kid, you didn't get a day off school when the weather was nice, when it was hot weather. Hundreds of schools have closed today across the country. Why? Because the sun's out. What is going on?
No, I think it is that issue with the humidity. I mean, I suspect you're also...
Don't close a school because of humidity.
Well, you know, at that point, the heat becomes an awful lot more difficult to bear. I'm guessing when you remember those beautiful sunny summers of your childhood, you're referring to 1976. And of course, isn't that
I wasn't born then, or was I? No, I remember that summer. That was very hot, yeah. Day after day, months on end, wasn't it? Yeah.
Well, it was 15 consecutive days of temperatures above 32 degrees Celsius, and literally weeks and weeks and weeks of sunshine. And of course, drought. The drought had actually started the year before. If you remember, there was that advice to bathe with a friend, because we didn't really have showers at the time. That's all I remember from that.
But bath with a friend, yeah, that's good advice for anyone in any conditions, really. But seriously, where is all this hot weather coming from, Jo?
It's kind of been homegrown, if you like, because it's high pressure over Europe. And usually when you get high pressure in the summer, you get nice blue skies, you get sunshine, you get fine conditions. And obviously the longer that sits there, the more temperatures start to build. And that's pretty much what we've got is actually an African anticyclone. So it started a little further south. And, occasionally we say, oh, we're going to see some warm weather coming up from the near continent. That much is true. But they've seen warm weather come up from Africa. So basically, this warm weather has kind of blossomed across Europe, flourishing in that high pressure system. And that high pressure system has extended north to us. And that's why we've tapped into this heat. And of course, the time of year, we've literally just had the summer solstice, the longest day. So we've had maximum hours of sunshine. We've tapped into somebody else's heat. And one way or another, it's just a perfect storm for what has turned into a very, very hot spell, not just for us, but for much of Europe as well.
I mean, last night, certainly in London, and I gather East Midlands, around the sort of central regions of England, certainly in London, where I lived, I mean, this was a cloudburst. I mean, it was phenomenal. Are we going to get more of those thunderstorms as we go forward?
Quite possibly, yes, with the kind of heat that we're looking at. I mean, in this country, we tend to say summer is 3 fine days and a thunderstorm. Certainly that one that built yesterday, we were expecting those showers to come up from the southwest. We were expecting the odd rumble of thunder, maybe some hail mixed in as well. But what actually happened was quite extraordinary. I think the cloud tops on that were about 40,000 feet or something. And this supercell developed, it was being posted on social media, the incredible vision of this cloud. And the lightning strikes, just so many of them, it was really spectacular. In fact, I was travelling back from London and watching it on my phone. So, yes, big storms last night. And there is the potential to see more storms. For the next few days, we're actually looking at nice, dry, sunny days. It's going to stay mostly fine. We'll always see a little more in the way of cloud up towards the north and the west. It will be a thundery breakdown when it comes, which is likely at the moment to be at the weekend. Now, originally, of course, the heat warning was extended out to Thursday. And I believe it's still in place until Thursday with red alerts for Wednesday and Thursday. I would be surprised if this heat alert wasn't extended out into the weekend, because even though it becomes less hot, it's still very warm.
Yeah, so what we're talking about is that be careful of the heat until Friday, and then over the weekend it'll probably break a bit, yeah?
Doesn't matter then. No, of course, yeah, we're going to
of course, the weather will get really bad over the weekend. We can expect that, yeah?
No, but thunderstorms, yeah, I think we will see a bit of a thundery breakdown.
Yeah, well, I'm going to give you a bit of advice in life. Never have a house with a flat roof, because that cloudburst last night, my poor old house couldn't take it. And I heard the rain coming down about 4 in the morning. I thought, that's pretty loud, that rain. So I thought, and then I thought, that is weirdly loud. So I got up, went downstairs, and there's a foot of water in my kitchen. A foot. Yeah. It was nearly knee deep. And that had come in about 3-4 minutes flat. So it was a hell of a cloudburst that I could have personally done without. So don't ever take my advice on this, Joe. I don't know if you've broken it already, but try not to have a house with a flat roof. That's my advice.
Don't have any of those. Not intending to either.
Yeah, well, don't. I'm here to tell you. Joe, fantastic to talk to you. Thanks for coming on. Joe Wheeler there, meteorologist, Square Raindrop Organisation, and with her view, or her prediction. I mean, the outlook is sunny and not so much warm, blazingly hot, but that is what we used to call a nice day. So I say, don't worry about the BBC, enjoy yourself, you know. If you get on the tube system in London, of course, they're going to tell you, have you got any water with you? Why do I need a tube station, an underground train station, to tell me, don't forget to have the water? No, thanks. I don't want your advice. Also, why are hundreds of schools closed just because the weather's nice? Really, seriously. What's going on? Hundreds of schools are closed because it's hot. Well, why? Any ideas, folks? 03444 99 1000. Get on the phone. Let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk, so I'm going to be taking your calls after the next break, 0344 499 1000. I'm not sure if you've got any WhatsApp voice notes. If we have, we'll play them out, but also we've got quite a few messages. I'll try to read as many of them as I can as well. So we've still got the best part of half an hour to go. The rest of the show is for you, and we'll take it from there. So stick where you are right now. I'll be back in a moment. Until then, stay cool. Be back in a minute.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let me read a few messages. Got some great calls waiting. You can join the list if you want. 03444 499 1000. Ian has sent me a text about the Peter Murrell, Nicola Sturgeon motorhome, 120,000 that Nicola said she didn't know anything about. Ian says one of the strange things about that motorhome was it only had 4 miles on the clock. That is strange because I don't think it was new. I think it was second-hand. But Nicola Sturgeon said she never even saw it. But there are stories. It was parked in her mother-in-law's drive, a council house. Peter Murrell's mum. This massive, great £120,000 gleaming motorhome. And there are stories that Nicola was regularly seen by it. But she said she didn't even know of its existence. OK, then, Nicola. Right, here's another message from Leslie. You just wait until council tax... Another message from Leslie. You just wait until council tax is replaced with land tax. It will cost families and landlords thousands. Yep. He'll certainly want to attack people who have had the temerity to do well enough in life to buy their own homes. He'll certainly want to go for them. We can't stand those kind of people, can we? Got to take their money and give it to welfare scroungers. That's the Labour way. Here's Al in Ainsdale. He says, do the Prime Minister's constituents have the power to recall their MP? Burnham best watch his back if they do. Well, I don't think so. Not unless he does something nefarious, breaks the law or something like that. So I'm afraid, Al, that's not a way of getting rid of Andy Burnham. Richard says Burnham becoming Prime Minister is a con job. The Labour Party conned Makerfield into electing him, and now the Labour Party are going to try and hoodwink the public into thinking he will win a rigged Labour leadership contest. How stupid do the Labour Party think we are? Well, there's loads of things to say there, Richard. First of all, there isn't going to be a leadership contest. It's a coronation. He's going to walk straight into number 10 unchallenged. And secondly, I don't think they conned the people of Makerfield. They gave them a choice. They said, vote Starmer, or rather vote Burnham, get rid of Starmer. That's what they said. If you vote Andy, you can get rid of Keir. That was a very powerful message that Reform couldn't even live with. I don't blame the people of Makerfield. I think, you know, I understand the decision they made. It was a way of getting rid of Keir Starmer. I mean, no one could be worse than that. Even Burnham's worth a roll of the dice. So I don't think they were conned. But there's not going to be a leadership contest. Do the Labour Party think we're stupid? Yeah, they sure as hell do. They also think we're far-right fascists. That's what Starmer thinks anyway. Thank God he's going. I hope Burnham doesn't carry that crap on. All that sort of, oh, look at those people, those voters, those ordinary people out there. They're all far right. They're racists. They're fascists. That's what Starmer thought about millions of us. We don't want that from a Prime Minister who's prejudiced against his own people. Starmer was and still is. We don't want that anymore. Let's hope Burnham does not carry that rancid tradition on. Right, let's go to the phones. Let's talk first to Lenny in Ashford. Hi, Lenny.
Good evening, Kevin.
What would you like to say, mate?
Well, my opinion, why we didn't get the deal that we really wanted and what we
on Brexit, yeah.
On Brexit, yes. I truly believe it started badly with Theresa May.
Say that again. That's one way of putting it. It started catastrophically.
Yeah, well, the deal she done behind everyone's back what was terrible.
Tried to do that deal.
Yeah.
Got rejected.
And then I think Boris' biggest mistake was that when Nigel Farage withdrew a lot of the people from Reform from trying to be MPs, instead of splitting the vote, he took away all to give Boris a free hand.
Yeah.
Now, because he'd done that, Boris had a very large majority. And I truly believe...
Well, he had a workable majority. It wasn't a massive, it had a workable majority.
Well, I think it was 70 or something.
Yeah, workable,
like
yeah.
Yeah? Well, and I think that Boris' biggest mistake was not putting Farage on the negotiating team rather than the wets that he had to it.
Yeah, you know what? I think that is a really good thought, Lenny. Yeah, why didn't he get... Farage made the big gesture to Boris. Look, I'm going to give you a hand here. I'm going to stand the Reform candidates down, or the Brexit Party candidates, or whatever they were called then. I'll stand them down so the Tories can win in marginal seats. That got Boris into power, and Boris didn't repay Farage with anything. I don't think he ever said thanks, even. Putting Farage on the Brexit negotiating team would have been a masterstroke. That's a really good thought, Lenny.
Well, it's just common sense.
Yeah, it is. But you know, it's Westminster. They don't allow common sense in Westminster.
I know, but you know, because when they come to negotiate, Farage walking into the room, that would have put them on their back foot.
Absolutely, you're damn straight. And they'd have stayed on their back foot. But you're right about Theresa May. Just tried to keep getting these absolutely useless deals through Parliament. Parliament kept rejecting them. The people didn't want it, and she had to go. Brexit has turned this country into a basket case. Ever since that vote back in 2016, on this very day, 23rd of June, this country has had 7 prime ministers. That's ridiculous. We're like a European banana republic now, ungovernable. Lenny, excellent call. Thank you for ringing. Lenny in Ashford there. Let's take another call before we go to break, shall we? Let's talk to Chris in East Sussex. You'd like a general election, would you, Chris?
No, I would not. Look, the most telling thing I saw on the night of the by-election was Andy Burnham standing between a fox and a dustbin. And for me, that was just so...
The dustbin had my vote.
You got chicanery of the fox, the slyness, the double dealing, the ability to destroy everything if it only needs one prize. And then you've got the dustbin, which is exactly where Labour politics should be confined. And quite honestly, the trash they talk is unbelievable.
I agree. Well, with a view to that, Chris, why wouldn't you want a general election? If Andy Burnham, I don't think he will, but there's a lot of pressure on him to call a snap election so that he's got a mandate for his premiership from the people. If he did do that, that would be our chance to get rid of this Labour lot. Why don't you want a general election to get rid of Labour?
Because he's not the Messiah. He's going to be the sire of even more mess.
Yeah, but he might lose that election.
I don't. Well, at the moment, there's this kind of, oh wow, this gleaming, tooth gleaming. I mean, the only thing that differs him really from Stam, if we're honest about, is the thickness of his spectacle frames. But quite honestly, give him time to actually do the same and expect a different result. It will give Reform and other parties time to actually rally the troops.
I think that's a good point there, Chris, because Nigel Farage is going, oh, we need an election now, a general election now. He's got to call us. Well, if he does, Reform will be in big trouble. Good luck finding 650 candidates.
Exactly. So when we have the migrants being allowed to work and undermining local people's wages, because if you're living in an HMO, your overhead's much less and makes it cheaper to employ. When you've got land tax coming along, when you've got more flip-flops coming than a beachside kiosk, quite honestly, bring it on, and let the generations know once and for all that it never works. Ultimately.
Yeah, well, there's all sorts of... Andy Burnham wants to nationalise everything. Nationalisation doesn't work. Nationalisation is based on political arrogance. The arrogance of politicians who've mostly never worked a minute in the real world. They've always worked in Westminster, who think they can run industries. They can't. They can't. Nationalisation always fails.
It does. And do you know what, Kevin? I think let's start picking MPs from the local people who've got local jobs.
I quite like that idea, but sometimes if you do that, you get a plucky amateur like Rob Kenyon, the Reform UK candidate in Makerfield, who was about as much use as a bottomless bucket. So the problem with taking plucky local amateurs is they tend to be poor candidates. You need a little bit of political nous. But I take your point, Chris. Really interesting call. Thank you for ringing. That's Chris in East Sussex. We've got a break. More calls when we come back. Stay where you are.
What they're ashamed of is the English flag. Scottish flag, fine. Welsh flag, fine. Irish, everything like that's marvellous. But no. We can't be English. And this has been going on for a long, long time.
He would be Prime Minister of the most toxic political brand in the country at the moment, which is Labour. And that is what we will be battling against.
Our Prime Minister is allegedly attacked by another nation and nothing is said.
This is a reminder that Russia regards the United Kingdom as a hostile power.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Go back to the phones just a second. Here's a few more text messages. This is from Suze. I'm still a Brexiteer and always will be. Sovereignty is what I want, and we still haven't got it. You're right there, Suze. Thanks to the anti-democratic crowd and Remainer lies, propaganda and self-interest. Well put. They will never convince me. My friend voted Remain so she could still bring in unlimited cheap cigarettes, and she's still furious about that. She would vote to rejoin for that reason alone. You mustn't fall for this. They love to tell you, look, if you rejoin, you won't have to wait so long at the airport. Oh, well, in that case, get us back into the Brussels Club. Shorter queues at the airport. They try to sell rejoining on that kind of basis. You can get your free cigarettes, as many as you want. You won't have to queue up for so long at the airport. Don't fall for that claptrap, folks. Just don't. Here's Margaret. She says, what does Starmer not understand? Over 17 million people in a referendum voted to leave the EU. Starmer is useless and hates this country. It's obvious from his performance. Well rehearsed, I think. That was when he burst into crying mode in Downing Street yesterday. Why do you think he cried? I think he put it on there to garner sympathy. Either that or just a bit of a weak man who sobs. You know, I don't know. I mean, call me old-fashioned, but I try not to cry. I'm a man, you know what I mean? I just don't think men should cry. So, you get in trouble for that kind of view. Oh, no, it's very healthy to let your emotions out. Well, when I went to school, we were beaten up by the teachers to keep our emotions in. It's the habit of a lifetime. I cannot change it. Sorry about that. Let's go back to the phones. Let's talk to Joan in Sunderland. Hello, Joan.
Hello. I'm listening to all of this claptrap about these politicians and messiahs and what have you.
The messiah without a mandate.
And we all know that. But what gets me is I'm hoping that the silent, law-abiding majority of people in this country are waking up to the fact that we are not going to tolerate these lies. We're not going to put up with this crap. We are losing our children and our grandchildren. They're leaving this country in droves, and we are getting people who we know nothing about just flooding in this country, going to the top of the queue for everything, and it is annoying me to death.
Good point, that, Joan. Good point, that. I think, you know, we can run through all of Keir Starmer's many, many mistakes. I mean, he barely put a foot right from the day he became Prime Minister. Lots and lots of technical mistakes, you know, the winter fuel allowance, farmers' inheritance tax and so on and so forth. But overarchingly, in terms of a theme, the basic overarching theme of his premiership that I think the people of this country were infuriated by, were enraged by and won't put up with again was his two-tier state. Two-tier Keir, two-tier Britain, two types of police justice, two types of justice in the courts, a two-tier system for migrants, foreigners, in which indigenous British citizens come second. The two-tier nature of that man's premiership is what led to his downfall. Do you agree?
Yes, but we are going to have to take these politicians on unless you want to have your grandchildren, your children's lives lived over the phone because they're leaving here because there's no jobs, they can't get housing because they're given to people who haven't paid a penny, they don't even wish us well. This has got to stop. We have got to fight to save this country the only way we can do it, and I am sick of all of this rubbish about messiahs. It seems now if you want to be Prime Minister, you just say, oh, I'll get some of me buddies. They can vote for me, and hey-ho, I'm in number 10. Disgusting.
Yeah, I agree, although he doesn't need any of his buddies to vote for him. He's going to be crowned Prime Minister. He's going to have a coronation, no election. He has no mandate from the British people, and yet he is soon going to be our dear leader, probably as of July the 17th. Isn't that special? Great to talk to you, Joan. As always, thank you for another excellent call. Let's talk to Michael in Norfolk. Hi, Michael. I hope you're cowering behind your curtains, not going out in this dangerous hot weather. And if you do go out, I hope you take 17 gallons of water with you.
Well, I'll tell you now that everybody goes on about the weather,
Yep.
When I was a child, back in the late 50s, I was down on my grandfather's farm, and it was a damn sight hotter than it is now.
Yeah. Why do you think, Michael? Why have they closed? I'm the same. Everybody remembers hot summers from their youth. So I think that's slightly looking at your personal past through rose-coloured spectacles. That notwithstanding, I remember this much. When I was at school, they didn't close any schools because the weather was hot. Today, they've closed hundreds of schools around the country because the weather's hot. Why? Do they think all these kids are going to stay inside? They're all going to go down the beach, down the park, or whatever the hell they do. They should be at school, shouldn't they?
Yeah, it should, but I think it's political. It's left-wing.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's be kind. It's be kind claptrap is what it is. Oh, the poor kids, it's hot. Give them the day off. Who needs to educate them? Let them go and frolic in the sunshine. It's pathetic. I don't know what's happened to this country. Well, I do.
I totally agree with you. And I mean, 1976 summer. I mean, I worked for a company called Eastern Counties Farmers. I was going out to all the depots in East Anglia, and nobody stopped to do anything.
Of course they did. We've become a nation that's terrified of the weather. If it's cold, we close the schools. If it's hot, we close the schools. You just can't win. Michael, great call. Michael from Norfolk there. Let's quickly talk to Robert in Hertfordshire. Your assessment, Robert, of Keir Starmer as a Prime Minister?
Well, do I have to say anything? The thing...
Well, don't swear.
The thing is, what annoyed me was I started to write a list out of all the things he'd done wrong, and I give up in the end.
Yeah, you need a bog roll for that, mate.
Well, the thing is, the first thing he said was, I'm going to take the sleeves out of politics, remember? He said that.
Another lie.
I've got to change the rule now. When they have as a by-election, when a Prime Minister resigns, they have to have a general election.
I think that I agree with that. I agree with that. These coronations have got to stop. We've done it, I think, now 6 times. We've got the 7th Prime Minister in 10 years. That's kind of a European banana republic. The Italians are laughing at us now, just as we used to laugh at their chaotic form of government. Brexit, I think, has made this country virtually ungovernable. Robert, very good point. Thank you for ringing. Robert in Hertfordshire. He's in the studio, and I've told him before, but he's wearing shorts anyway. It's Peter Cardwell.
It's extremely hot, and we're talking about why Britain comes to a standstill when it just gets
close
a bit warm.
Hundreds of schools.
Exactly.
It's sunny.
Well, the trains, for example, in London, I know it's only one part of the UK, but they're